Well, it looks like they wrapped up that pothole fixing right in time for the afternoon rush. So the only thing I'm seeing getting out of downtown right now are the usual slowdowns. Brake tapping going east and westbound on the east loop, north loop, south loop. Then again, 24 eastbound between 40 down to Briley Parkway, pretty backed up. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hello, boys and girls. My name is Matt Murphy, and this is the Matt Murphy Radio Show, underway for another day. On this Thursday edition, we thank you for being around. It is just after 3 o'clock, 6 after the hour, thereabouts. And we've got a loaded show for you today. I'm very excited about what we have in presentational form over the next 4 hours. That's 240 full minutes. And we hope to fill each of them with information, education, and entertainment, not necessarily in that order. I mentioned that my name is Matt Murphy. They call this the Matt Murphy Show, but it would not exist without the likes of Ken Weaver, who's back in News Closet B, gathering headlines as always, making sure that everything that comes out of our speakers sounds as good as humanly possible. Is Chris Weber. He is behind the glass as well. I kind of screwed that up, but I repaired it right at the end. Did you see how I did that? I was screwing it up, and then right at the end, I did a subordinate clause that made everything sound good.
Sure.
Yeah?
I didn't really catch it because I was making a little bit of a screw up at the same time. Right when you were introducing everyone, I put up the three shot, and Ken had stepped out of the news booth, so it was an empty chair.
Well, there you go.
Talk about insubordination.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of that going on, Weaver. A lot of insubordination. Are you scratching?
No, I was fixing my backpack there.
Oh.
It was stabbing me in the back.
I have a question for you guys while you're here.
Let's hear it.
I want to know. I'm just going to play something for y'all. It's really a question for the entire class. I'm going to play something for y'all. This is from April 11th, 2016. Let's go.
You're going to be so proud of your country if I get in. You're going to be so proud of your president, and I don't care about that. But you are going to be so proud of your country because we're going to turn it around, and we're going to start winning again. We're going to win so much. We're going to win at every level. We're going to win economically. We're going to win with the economy. We're going to win with military. We're going to win with health care and for our veterans. We're going to win with every single facet. We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. And you'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. Mr. President, it's too much. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more. We're going to win so much.
I have a feeling he kept going.
Let's get ready to say the likes of which nobody's ever seen.
Wow.
I think he won that election, right? If I'm not mistaken, he won that election. And if I'm not mistaken, he won the most recent one. And my question is, are we tired of winning yet? I think I'm getting a little tired of winning.
I think I had a little more winning.
I mean, maybe a little more winning, but can we have a break from the winning? I feel like we occasionally need a break from the winning because there's been a lot of winning going on. And if you don't believe me, if you think, well, Murphy, you're in an echo chamber, you're in a bubble, you're Mr. Trump lover, you're Mr. Trump butt kisser, you're going to say that anything's a win. I mean, you would do that anyway. Go over to #NeverCNN and watch how these people are reacting to the Trump presidency 1 month in. And I would suggest to you that there's been a hell of a lot of winning. A hell of a lot of winning. I can provide you a little bit of evidence with how much winning there's been. Listen for a moment to one of my favorite things to do is to watch #NeverCNN because these folks just have snot bubbles coming out of their noses. I mean, they do. And they got to suck up that snot bubble, right? But I mean, they're sucking their thumbs. They're upset. They're trying to figure out something to hang their hats on. And so anything that comes along that they feel like they can work with, they'll work with it. Oh, my Lord, he's going to give us $5,000 of money. Now, I don't agree with the $5,000 payment plan. I have an ideological disagreement. I don't think that's the principal purpose. That's why it's not going to happen. But I love the fact that the liberal networks, the hashtag never see an ends of the world, and other liberals in the halls of Congress are actually arguing with President Donald Trump that the American taxpayer should not see the monetary savings provided by DOGE. No, you can't give the taxpayer. I actually have a clip that I'll play you later on. I think this is Jasmine Crockett, who is in the running. I mean, she is well on her way to dispatch Maxine Waters and AOC as the dumbest human being in Congress. I mean, and that's saying something. She actually said, she called $5,000 chump change. She's like, what's he going to do? Give us that chump change? Chump change? Ma'am? I mean, I don't know what planet you're on or what amount of money you're bilking from the taxpayer treasury into your bank account, but I mean, I don't know. Weber, I don't know what they're doing over there in the newsroom in terms of monetary compensation, but might I ask you, is $5,000 chump change?
If so, I'm a big chump.
Weaver, are you a chump over there?
I'm chumping, baby.
I mean, the three chumps.
I'm chumping at the bit.
I mean, we're champing for the chump change. I just, this is what they're left with. No matter what the guy says, no matter what he does, I just hope that Donald Trump just starts throwing stuff out there just to watch them disagree with it. And I think that's some of what he's doing. But listen to the freshly dispatched of Jim Acosta. Believe it or not, Jim Acosta is still alive. And believe it or not, Jim Acosta is still anti-Trump. Jim Acosta is so politically left. He has such Trump derangement syndrome that CNN said, we can't do this anymore, dude. CNN said we can't do this anymore. And they were going to send him to the Siberia of 24-hour news, midnight Eastern time. That's where they were settled. That they were about to send Jim Acosta. I think that's right. It was either midnight or 11 p.m., one way or the other. It was a 2-hour show that they were going to give him in the middle of the night. It was like, there, you want your show? There's your show.
It starts at midnight,
yeah.
Jim.
There you go, Jim. Whatever you want to do. Just, you know what? Have at it, buddy. You can scream and yell all you want. Anyway, Jim Acosta decided to take his balls and go home. Oh, wait, no, he didn't have any balls. He decided to take his... Yeah, baby. Here's Jim Acosta.
Poll that comes out right now that shows, Trump's doing this well with voters or that well with Republicans or this well with them. Throw all that out the window. It's going to take some time for people to absorb what's taking place right now. You're absolutely right.
Okay, so what he just said, and he's on this this Midas Touch podcast, which apparently for 1 day or 2 days has beaten the Joe Rogan podcast, and all the liberals are just so excited because they beat Joe Rogan, who they consider to be a Trump guy now. Joe Rogan's not a Trump guy. Joe Rogan is an honest actor. What we all try to be in this format. One of the reasons that liberals can't break through on this format is because they're not honest with the people that they speak with. And the people that they speak with are smarter than they think they are, and they see through their Bravo Sierra, BS. Get what I'm saying there? So Acosta immediately says, well, all of these polls, you just dismiss these polls because it's going to take a while for the American people to see through all of this. Okay, so the American people are deciding that they really like the way things are going under the first month of Donald Trump. And your response is the polls don't matter and they're not real because the American people haven't absorbed it yet. Just listen
right now that shows, Trump's doing this well with voters or that well with Republicans or this well with them. Throw all that out the window. It's going to take some time for people to absorb what's taking place right now. You're absolutely right, Ben. When Trump was out there on the campaign trail, he said, on day one, I'm going to start lowering prices in this country. That hasn't happened.
Yes, it did. On day one, he began deregulating businesses in the fashion that would assist in lowering the inflationary rates that have plagued this country over the last 4 years. Secondarily, on day one, he empowered through the newly renamed U.S. Digital Service, which is now called the Department of Government Efficiency, Elon Musk to identify waste in government spending, to roll back that spending. In doing so, you're going to see less money on the national economic stage. And with the less money on the national stage, inflationary rates will necessarily go down. You don't understand economic cycles, Jim.
He said on day one, and perhaps even getting into the Oval Office, he said he's going to solve the war in Ukraine.
Is he not attempting to do that? So how exactly would you solve the war in Ukraine, Jim? What would your solution be? American boots on the ground? The American people do not want it. Do you want the American people to engage and the American military to engage Russia in a conflict? He's attempting to get the best deal possible for the Ukrainian people and to stop the bloodshed. And he began that process, yes, on day one.
Hasn't happened yet. And what is he doing? He's going to the Super Bowl. He's going to the Daytona 500. You know, it's like he's on the StubHub Rapid Rewards program.
Okay, that's a pretty funny line. StubHub Rapid Rewards program.
Yeah, but he didn't come up with it himself.
No, of course he didn't. Now, if Donald Trump was truly on the StubHub Rapid Rewards program, he would be at the hockey game tonight. You know?
Never know. He may be.
He might show up. He apparently gave a motivational speech to the U.S. hockey players. You got to win it for the United States of America. To hell with Canada.
You know, I was talking about this on my show on Substack. Yes.
I'm sorry. I just had to pause that. Is that good?
His show on Substack.
I would have.
You and the other basement dwellers.
I was talking about this on my show on Substack.
Substack.
I just love. Remember Acosta grabbing the microphone from that lady in the White House and wouldn't give it back? Yeah, that's my First Amendment. Yeah, he was a tough guy. Now?
You know, I was talking about this on my show on Substack yesterday, Ben. The question I was asked.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, we all heard it, so why repeat it, right, Jim?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, no need to repeat it.
Was, you know, hasn't he gotten over the cool and fun part of being president of the United States? He had 4 years to do that. This is like that movie Dave, if anybody remembers the movie Dave.
Y'all remember the movie Dave? It was a pretty good movie.
Kevin Kline.
Kevin Kline in there? Yeah.
Where Kevin Kline suddenly becomes president of the United States and he goes out and has a ball being president. You know, he's got the giant robotic arms at the one factory photo op. And he has a great time. But that's when you're Donald Trump and you're facing an inflation problem in this country that's very stubborn, when you've got a war in Ukraine that needs to be solved, you can't be out there doing laps at the Daytona 500.
Okay, so this dude who would not point nary a finger at the Biden administration is now admitting that inflationary rates are out of control. He's now admitting that the Ukrainian situation that was caused by the Biden administration is out of control. He is admitting that all of these things that Donald Trump talked about on the campaign trail that he pushed back against are actually reality, that they're actually happening. I find that fascinating. But no one calls to question Jim Acosta as to where he was when these things were happening in real time. What Jim Acosta decided to do in real time was to not only defend the Biden administration on the whole, but defend Joe Biden in particular, denying the fact that Joe Biden was mentally incapable of dealing with these issues, something that no one has been held to account for. And someone ought to be held to account for it. That not only was the administration culpable, but the mainstream media was culpable in covering up the fact that we had a 25th Amendment problem in this country. And nobody said a word about it. But I'm glad that Jim Acosta is at least admitting that Joe Biden left this country in tatters.
You can't be out there doing laps at the Daytona 500.
Well, I guess you can, Jim, because guess who did it? Donald J. Trump.
You need to be working in overdrive for the American people, and he's just not going to do that. He is essentially a part-time president.
I mean, this guy, poor Jimmy. He's a part. I mean, what?
That's on Substack.
You hear more of this astute analysis on Jim Acosta's Substack channel. I can't believe that this has been relegated. This type of in-depth digging into the issues has been relegated to Substack. Donald Trump has 73 executive orders, separate executive orders, which has a lot of subparts to them. Donald Trump has deregulated the United States of America, has negotiated deals to get our hostages released, and admittedly in drips and drabs, but hostages released in the Hamas Israeli conflict started by Hamas, a conflict that didn't need to happen. He has gotten Russia to the table of negotiation with the possibilities of ending the killing over there. He has begun the process of rolling back costs associated with the federal government overspending, waste, fraud, and abuse to the point that you're going to see inflationary rates go down. He's beginning that process as well. But Jim Acosta has decided, on the heels of Joe Biden, who spent 580 days on vacation, either at Rehoboth Beach or elsewhere, that now Jim Acosta is worried about a part-time presidency.
Who's delegated the presidency to Elon Musk. And the question that folks are going to have to start asking, and I think they're already starting to ask, is what the hell did we vote for here? People did not vote for Donald Trump to act like Kevin Kline in the movie Dave and just go have a good time being president of the United States.
I don't think Jim Acosta knows what in the hell a single Trump voter voted for. I don't think that Jim Acosta has sat. I mean, when's the last time y'all think Jim Acosta sat down with a Trump voter and had an honest conversation? I don't know. You know what I'm going to do? I just decided it. I'm going to write Jim and invite myself on his Substack. So maybe he can talk to you know what I mean? Me and you and Substack, Jim. We can have a conversation. Fun. Me, you, and the 14 people that. I mean, how do you get on? What is Substack?
I have no idea.
Wait a minute. That's really the name of his show?
No, it's
the platform.
Yeah, that's the platform. I think.
I thought he just made a mistake. It's actually called Substack?
Yeah, that's the I don't know what he's calling the Jim Acosta show on the Substack, but Substack is where people can just sign up, and anybody that wants to, bloggers in pajamas can.
It's a media platform for video, writing, podcasts, and other creator-centered communities.
Well, I'm going to have to get on that. I might get a recipe.
Substack is, generally speaking, for part-time podcasters, for hobbyists who are looking to enter that space, and for unemployed liberals. Jim Acosta is currently unemployed, and he calls this the new venture that he's entering into. Donald Trump, once again, has accomplished more in a month than Joe did in 4 years, and Jim Acosta damn well knows it. But that's a little fun for you as we start the show. 3:22. We're going to talk about the push against DOGE. Stacey Abrams was making a cool $2 billion over this deal, and we've identified that in the last 20 hours since we left the airwaves at 7 o'clock yesterday evening. $182 billion on illegal aliens. That is correct. You heard me correctly. That according to DOGE and those that have uncovered and put these numbers together, the United States of America is spending, I think, this is during the Biden administration, $182 billion with a B dollars on illegal aliens alone in the United States of America. Donald Trump signed an executive order putting an end to that. Oh, by the way, that executive order, he was empowered in signing it from a law in 1996 that was passed by the Congress and signed by none other than Bill Clinton. So we'll talk about that today. We'll get into some state matters as well. I got Gino Bolso coming on at about 3:35 this afternoon. A little bit later on, Representative Scott Sapicki. A lot of fun, and I hope that you join us, not just passively by listening, but actively participating. 615-737-9986. It's The Murphy Show. You've been hearing us talk about it for some time now, but I just want to reiterate, for those of you out in the MJ area, and I am in Mount Juliet, many of you who have lived here a long time, you already know that Eurofix has been Middle Tennessee's finest European auto repair company for the last 26 years. I mean, it's pretty cool. Small town mechanic, started in a barn, Aaron Stokes did, in the backyard of a single-wide trailer, and they now have grown to five different locations, and the latest one is in Mount Juliet, right across the street on South Mount Juliet Road, right across the street from the Dairy Queen. Friends, get over there and get your car to Eurofix. 100 Oaks, if you're a little bit closer to that area, Franklin, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now Mount Juliet. Pretty cool watching this happen. Why is it happening this way? Because they're the best in the business, friends. At Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair. They simply do it better and less expensively than the dealer. That is the commitment that Eurofix makes to you. So call 844-EUROFIX. That's 844-EUROFIX. When you stop by, tell them Matt Murphy sent you. Visit myEurofix.com, myEurofix.com.
A series of explosions believed to be a terrorist attack in Israel. Details coming up at 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, a couple of minutes to go before that newscast at the bottom of the hour with Ken Weaver. And then right after that, we'll welcome in our guest, Representative Gino Bolso from Williamson County will be in with us to talk about the regular session of the, it feels odd that, there's not a lot of attention being paid to the General Assembly for two reasons, I think. Number one, first and foremost, Donald J. Trump, right? His first month has been an incredible whirlwind of headline and activity on the national stage, on the international stage, affecting all of us, including right here in the state of Tennessee. With that in mind, we've been spending a lot of time talking about that, and rightly so. I do not want to miss an opportunity to talk about activity going on in the General Assembly. However, now number two is obvious that a lot of attention was paid to the Education Scholarship Fund in the special session that came to fruition and came to completion just a couple of weeks ago. But the General Assembly is ongoing, and I noted that Gino has a bill introduced in the state General Assembly that would create a one flag policy. it kind of is a mirror reflection of what the United States of America is doing right now. And I guess in the state of Tennessee, it would be more of a two-flag policy in the spirit of we have two. You know, I've long said this. I said this when I first got to Alabama. There was a debate going on because when I got to the state of Alabama in 1999, they were only about 3.5 years removed from removing the old Confederate battle flag from the top of the state capitol in Alabama. It was a great point of contention, and eventually they got it down. And there were some people that felt like it was a removal of history. My position was simple. There should only be two symbols of sovereignty above any state capital. One symbolizing the sovereignty of that individual state, the other symbolizing the sovereignty of the United States of America. And that's it. I mean, right? Now, there are some exceptions that will be made. I'm going to let Gino tell you about all of those exceptions and talk about what's going on in the General Assembly. We'll do that next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Time for news.
.30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Right now, we're monitoring reports out of the Middle East. Bus explosions in Israel, believed to be a terrorist attack. At least 3 buses. Explosions on all 3, but no casualties have been reported. All public transportation services paused. This happening just south of Tel Aviv. Right now in our nation's capital, today marks exactly 1 month of the second Trump presidency. At the White House press briefing today, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz says the president is a deal maker in chief, expressing confidence in Trump's ability to end the war in Ukraine.
We have to talk to both sides in order to get to both sides to the table, and both sides have said only President Trump could do that.
Over in the U.S. Senate.
The yeas are 51. The nays are 49. The confirmation is confirmed.
And Kash Patel will be sworn in as FBI director. 7-term Kentucky U.S. Senator Mitch McConnell says he's done.
My current term in the Senate will be my last.
The longest-serving Senate leader in U.S. history made the announcement today on his 83rd birthday. ABC News says 2 U.S. officials confirmed Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is preparing to fire or remove a series of top generals and senior officers at the Pentagon. Reuters says the IRS has already fired 6,000 employees. Delta is offering $30,000 in compensation to every passenger on board that regional jet that flipped upside down upon landing in Toronto. And turning to sports, President Trump called the U.S. hockey team ahead of tonight's Four Nations face-off final with Canada. Forward Dylan Larkin says it was an honor, but politics not on the team's mind.
You don't really even hear guys talking about the political side of it. It's just about hockey and the rivalry on the ice, and that we've all experienced from a young age.
Puck drops at 7 o'clock, Middle Tennessee time tonight. One more breaking news alert. A judge has rejected a labor union request to pause the Trump administration's firings of federal employees. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, I don't see any crashes on the interstates, just the usual slowdowns. If you are northbound 65 to get to 24 there on the west loop. On the east loop, it looks like it's pretty slow going both directions. And then I'm noticing a slowdown between 24 and Briley Parkway on 40 headed toward the airport. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I tell you guys often how proud I am to be associated with an organization like Men of Valor, and everything that they do for our communities is just such a positive. They take men who are a part of the criminal justice system, and they turn them into people who turn their lives to Jesus Christ, men of integrity. They disciple them in a way where when they come out of the system, instead of revisiting their life of crime, they want to become those productive members of society. And by extension, it saves us a tremendous amount of money. And I had someone ask me, is like, put some math to that. Well, by lowering recidivism, Men of Valor saves Tennessee taxpayers more than $1 million for every 7 men who stay out of prison longer than 5 years. And their recidivism rates go down from, nationally, its recidivism rate is 70%. In the state of Tennessee, the recidivism rate for men getting out of the prison system to go back into the system in 3 years is 50%. And for graduates of the Men of Valor program, it goes down to less than 15%. That's what we're talking about. Not only do we bring men to become productive men of society, members of society, we also save a tremendous amount of money. I encourage you to think about the Men of Valor Breakfast. It's coming back to the Music City Center Wednesday, March 26th. Be there. I know I will. 7 o'clock in the morning. The 2025 Men of Valor Breakfast. Find out more about this and about Men of Valor by going to movministry.com. That's movministry.com. Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy. Safe House is a one-stop shop when it comes to protecting those things that protect your family and your valuables in your home. And I want to talk to you about that because it's one thing to purchase a gun, utilizing your Second Amendment rights to protect your family, protect your property, protect those things that you work so hard for. It's another thing to protect those things, right? And to protect yourself through threat of fire. Well, you can do both at Nashville Safe House because they have more safes than you can possibly imagine. They're always these gun safes are always sales tax free at Nashville Safe House. And of course, they have the selection that's right for you, whether it's Browning, Fort Knox, Champion, Superior, Rhino. They've got them at Nashville Safe House. I think Mark said yesterday when we spoke with him, well over 200 safes in stock and on the showroom floor, and then almost another 400 in their warehouse. That means they have the right safe from a price standpoint and from a size standpoint for you and your family. Whether it's a corporate safe or a personal safe, you'll find it at Nashville Safe House. Go by 4th Avenue South across the street from City Cemetery and see Mark and his team at Nashville Safe House. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All right, plenty to discuss on the national front. We'll get back to it coming up in the 4 o'clock hour on the Matt Murphy Show. Right now, however, we turn our attention to state matters. It's always good to welcome in Representative Gino Bolso into our studios to discuss the goings-on of the General Assembly. It's been too long, Gino. Thank you for stopping by.
You're very welcome, Matt. It's a pleasure to be here.
Let's recap a little of the special session before we start talking about some of the legislation that you've got presented in front of the General Assembly.
Sure.
Successful session, in your opinion?
Very much so. Yes, there were 3 bills that we were deliberating over, all proposed by the governor and all passed. The biggest one, of course, the Education Freedom Act, but also an important immigration bill and the bill to give relief to those in East Tennessee who were affected by Hurricane Helene.
I asked you the question, and the most intriguing aspect of the Education Scholarship Fund was, to me, not how some of the liberals toting the water of the unions and whatnot were against it. Those voices, the shrill, oh, this is going to destroy public education. I just, for the most part, anyone learned on the subject just kind of dismisses those. But I think there were some legitimate concerns amongst libertarian conservative minds regarding what this would do, what it would accomplish. I'm sure you talked about this in Williamson County to your constituents. Walk me through some of those concerns and how those discussions went and how you settled on the yay vote.
Sure. I heard primarily, I think, three concerns, mostly from conservatives. One was that this was just creating another entitlement program, growing the size of government, growing spending. Second, it was giving the government a way of getting its nose under the tent of private schools and potentially destroying private education. And then third, it didn't do anything to help public education where 90% of our kids are and where we really need to focus. So those were the three principal objections I heard from my conservative constituents. But on balance, it seemed to me that when you're giving parents more choice, you are doing something that's good for the parent and good for the child, because we already have a system of choice the way the money follows the child under our TISA funding formula, where parents can enroll a child in the local public school. You can enroll a child in a different school in the same LEA. You can enroll the child in a neighboring county. If they're willing to accept the child, you can enroll the child in a charter school. And what the Education Freedom Act did was simply add another choice available to parents to take those TISA funds and enroll the child in a private school that likely was going to be teaching values that the parents agreed with.
And you're comfortable with well, let me ask it this way. Do you think this is a starting point in terms of giving parents that choice that you mentioned? 20,000, the first 10 are needs-based, and then it opens up. It's my understanding that that represents roughly 2% of the overall public education population. We see how this goes and potentially expand it for others.
Yes, I think it's probably proper to look at the Education Freedom Act as a bit of a pilot program, even though it's not styled that way. But it is just 2% of our public school children. We have about 1 million kids in public schools. And obviously, most parents are going to continue to choose to enroll their child in the local public school. Many parents are still happy with that option. So the Education Freedom Act was never designed to take all 1 million kids in public schools and move them somewhere else. That's not the case at all. But over time, there's a provision in the bill to grow by up to 5,000 scholarships per year, with the idea being that as many scholarships will ultimately be available to parents as those who want them.
In the General Assembly, obviously, there's a lot of lifting yet to be done. Clearly, you've got to deal with the budgets for the upcoming fiscal year. And then you have a number of pieces of legislation, one of which I wanted to talk with you about today because I love it. I absolutely appreciate what you're trying to accomplish with regard to, are we calling it the One Flag Bill? Is that the proper terminology, or am I calling it the wrong thing?
We don't call it that. We call it the flag bill.
Sure.
If it's at a federal level, it's a one flag bill because there is just one flag
bill. Right.
It
makes more sense that it would be the two flag bill, right? Because,
that's a better way of saying it.
Right, yeah. Right. Talk to everybody about that.
Sure. This is something that really began last session in the 113th General Assembly, where we had parents that were concerned about political flags being displayed in classrooms. And so we brought a bill to address that. And it was wildly successful in the House. We got 70 votes on the floor. It didn't quite get enough votes in the Senate. It got 13 favorable votes. It needed 17. So we brought that same bill back to remove political flags from our public school system. But then we added this year a provision that would require that any governmental entity that's receiving state funds for roads or for sidewalks or for public buildings not fly political flags, but rather they fly the U.S. flag, the Tennessee flag, or ultimately in whatever political subdivision they're in. Like I'm from the city of Brentwood, so if you were to go to the town hall, city hall, you would expect to see a U.S. flag, a Tennessee flag, maybe a Williamson County flag, and maybe a city of Brentwood flag. But the idea is that we want those flags that unite us all in order to be flying on our government buildings and along our highways. And we don't want pride flags being shown by image onto courthouses, as has been done here in Tennessee. We don't want that being painted on public roads, and we certainly don't want the pride flag being center stage on the White House, as we saw in the Biden administration in 2023.
It feels like, and you go right to the heart of it, it feels like this started with some of the various LGBTQ paraphernalia that, government agencies felt, compelled for some reason or another, to display on official government property, despite, some of the objections of some of their constituencies. It feels like that's the way it started. But overall, it makes sense that a government installation paid for by taxpayer funding would stay out of those more political arenas and stick to political sovereignty of the U.S., sovereignty of the state of Tennessee, whatever municipality, as you mentioned, with a few exceptions.
Exactly. I mean, every piece of legislation typically starts with a problem that it's trying to solve. And here, we did see instances where some municipalities were taking public roadways and painting political flags on them, projecting images of political flags onto courthouses. And that's not something that actually unites us. That kind of divides us. And the flags that we see along our roadways and sidewalks and courthouses should be those that we can all agree are representative of the values that we all share as Tennesseans and as Americans.
What was the issue last year, to your understanding, on the Senate side? If it passed, that's 70 votes, you said, and that's
in the House.
And that would represent, I would think, almost every Republican voting in favor of this. I would expect that anything Gino's going to bring up, the Democrats are probably going to be against. But what was the objection last year, and have you spoken to anybody on the other side of the aisle about those objections? Do you feel like you've overcome those?
Sure, I think we have. The principal concern that I heard articulated was that there was some question as to whether what we were doing was constitutional. That is, did it comply with the free exercise clause of the First Amendment? And the short answer is yes, it does, because we've got really good Supreme Court precedent on these questions now, particularly our U.S. Supreme Court decision in the Kennedy versus Bremerton case from 2022. You may recall that was Coach Kennedy, who went and took a knee on the 50-yard line in the state of Washington as a football coach. Ultimately, in a 6-3 opinion, Justice Gorsuch said that there's a distinction here between government speech and private speech. And the First Amendment provides no protection for government speech, but it does for private speech. In the case of Coach Kennedy, he was on his own saying a silent prayer, and so that was private speech and protected. But where your speech actually is involved with your official duties, it's government speech, and therefore it's not protected under the Free Exercise Clause. And when you have a teacher or an administrator or a counselor displaying a political flag in front of kids that they're designed and required to teach, that is an official statement. Therefore, it's government speech, and it's not something protected by the Free Exercise Clause, and that's something we've explained to our Senate colleagues.
Right, and just to kind of get it to where the goats can graze on it, so the idea being that, a teacher wants to display a pride flag in their classroom, and under your legislation, that would be prohibited.
Correct.
And nobody's saying that teacher can't display it in their home, on their, whatever, in their private lives. Obviously, they can do as they wish. And my question would be, and you and I kind of talked about it a little before we went on air, is that if the naysayers or those that are objecting are correct, then is there no limitation to what a teacher could potentially put in their classroom? I mean, to use the most obvious and egregious example, I mean, if a teacher decided they wanted to display a Nazi flag in their classroom, would they not then argue that that is too protected speech? I mean, most people would recognize, obviously, we're not going to allow that to happen.
And that's the logical extension of the argument that a teacher would have a First Amendment right to display whatever she wanted to in her classroom. And obviously that's inappropriate because, as we said many times in the last session, parents send their kids to school to be educated, not to be indoctrinated. And there's just no reason that these political flags and political statements should be part of a K-12 education in the state of Tennessee.
And I would note, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it feels to me like this legislation is asking the government to act as a neutral party to some of these political debates. that, we are in the United States of America. We are part of the state of Tennessee. We're proud of that. We're part of a local municipality or whatever, a particular school system, if a school system has a flag. But other than that, remain neutral in some of these other political style debates. It's not as if you're putting the thumb. I mean, the other side would seem to be the ones that are putting the thumb on the scale.
You're 100% correct, Matt, because sometimes you hear the other side say that they want to be inclusive. Well, actually what they're doing is the opposite of being inclusive. They're being very divisive because we can all rally behind and around the U.S. flag and the Tennessee flags because those flags represent the values that we all hold and that we all share. And that's where we need to be focused, creating unity, not division, with the symbols that are displayed in school and on our public property. Exceptions.
Have you anticipated... and I think you did this last year, if I'm not mistaken, anticipated, certain exceptions, to the general rule. The flag that comes to mind as I sit here and talk to you is the POW flag, for example. Are there going to be some exceptions to this?
Absolutely. I mean, we really don't want anyone to remove any flag that is not a political flag. But laws are static. The world is dynamic. And so sometimes it's hard to craft a piece of legislation that can address all possible scenarios. And so we're going to have a fairly comprehensive list of things like POW, MIA flag, armed services flags, flags of universities, flags of schools, flags of other political subdivisions, flags of other countries, things that are legitimate and really do not in any way intend to indoctrinate a child as to a particular political point of view.
I think you're answering some of these questions that are popping up on the super text line, but I'll ask them. I mean, you just mentioned the service flag. So, someone asked, what about my U.S. Marine Corps flag? Obviously, that would be a protected flag. Would this affect private schools displaying the Christian flag, for example?
This only applies to public schools and public buildings. It does not get into any privately owned property.
Shouldn't this apply, writes 1733, shouldn't this apply to colleges and universities in Tennessee that are also receiving government funds?
The short answer is yes, and it does. I mean, the new part of it that deals with public buildings, obviously universities are part of governmental entities, and so they are also within the purview of the new bill as drafted.
It occurs to me, Gino, that you and I sit here, we sit around, we talk about these issues. We know the types of things we're talking about. I understand that you have to craft the language of the bill in a more directed, particular way because you start dealing with people that are intentionally trying to crack your bill, right? But, we understand. And it's not just the gay pride flag. It is other political styled flags. I mean, Black Lives Matter had the, Antifa, whatever. But, you can, and I can name other, perhaps right-wing organizations that might want to infuse political messaging into the school systems. We just want to keep that type of thing out of the school system and create a neutral field.
Absolutely. Left or right, if it's political, it's got no business being there in a K-12 school or even in some of our public buildings. And so that's the whole design behind the legislation.
You've got this bill going on. What else do you have this General Assembly?
We're always looking to protect the unborn as much as we can. And one of the things that we've noticed is that despite the fact that we've eliminated elective abortion in Tennessee, we're having a problem with companies, particularly in the Northeast and in Mexico, sending abortion pills directly to patients, young ladies, in the state of Tennessee, which is not only killing the unborn child, but it's also causing harm to many of the young ladies who are taking these without any type of medical supervision. And so I've got a bill, HB 26, that is designed to provide a civil remedy against companies that unlawfully send abortion pills into the state. It's already a felony under both federal law and state law, but nonetheless, it's going on and it's really not being stopped. And so the idea would be we would provide a wrongful death cause of action to any next of kin of the unborn child who's killed against one of these companies that feloniously send abortion pills into the state.
Try to kind of preemptively stop them from bringing them into the state for fear of civil liability should something happen along those lines.
Exactly. That's the idea.
HB 26, you said?
It is, yeah.
Well, we'll have you back on, and we'll talk about these matters. Obviously, just getting the General Assembly cranked up. I appreciate you stopping by, particularly on the flag bill. We'll just say flag bill, and then, of course, the other legislation. Gino, always a pleasure.
Thank you, Matt.
There's Representative Gino Bolso, 54 after the hour. Be back right after this. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy, and I want to tell you about the wonderful opportunity that still exists at the Glock Store. Look, right now, February is the great month for lovers, the great month for couples, right? And at the Glock Store, they're continuing their special deal on through the end of the month. What deal is that? If you and your partner want to go over to the Shoot 270 lanes, it's not a lane range, right, where you're stuck between partitions and you might be shooting next to a stranger or whatever. Nothing fun about that. These are specialized shooting rooms, private shooting rooms. If you've never been, you got to go see this for yourself. It's pretty awesome. With a personalized shooting instructor, a professional that will tailor their sessions for your level of expertise and for the level of expertise for your partner. And if you just mention my name, 2 for the price of 1, baby. That's what it's all about. 2 shooters for the price of 1. Book it all month long, all February long, by mentioning my name at shoot270.com. Go by the Glock Store and see. Just a fabulous location, a fabulous retail shop. You've just got to see it to understand and believe it. The Glock Store, the one and only. Just off of Elm Hill Pike on Air Lane Drive, minutes away from the airport, worth the drive from anywhere. It's the Glock Store.
4 o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. And here in Middle Tennessee, TVA's asking you to reduce your use of electricity to get through this bitter cold snap without any service interruptions. Sharon Young of Nashville telling Channel 4 her family has lost power a few times over the past couple of weeks, including last night when low temperatures were in the teens.
With the temperatures dropping, the streets were iced over, so there was like not a good chance of getting out of the subdivision with no lighting to, find a place to go. So we had to just make do and just get extra blankets and just pray that the power will come on soon.
NES and TVA asking you to turn off decorative lights, lower the thermostat, and avoid using large appliances like ovens, dishwashers, washer and dryers. They expect near record usage tomorrow morning. Well, a federal judge appointed by President Obama says President Trump can move forward with firing government workers. U.S. District Judge Christopher Cooper says employee unions' request has to go before the Federal Labor Relations Authority, which adjudicates labor relations within the federal bureaucracy rather than a federal district court. Meanwhile, at the White House, President Trump with Tiger Woods at an event in the East Room celebrating Black History Month.
We pay tribute to the generations of black legends, champions, warriors, and patriots who helped drive our country forward to greatness, and you really are great people.
And it's a done deal. Kash Patel to be sworn in as the nation's new FBI director.
The yeas are 51. The nays are 49. The confirmation is confirmed.
That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, slowdowns in the usual places, but I don't see crashes blocking your way. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, kids, here we are. Here we go. Hour number 2 starts right now. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. You've heard, and I know you did because I listened to Ken Weaver's newscast just moments ago, and he declared it, that Kash Patel has received the vote. You know what you call a soon-to-be FBI director that only got 51 votes? in the United States Senate.
What do you call that?
FBI director.
For 10 years.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's right. Kash Patel is soon to be sworn in as the new director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And many of us hope that he can clean up that organization, depoliticize it from the head down, and get it back to its original purpose, its original construct, its original mission statement, which is to utilize federal resources to track down the bad guys and to protect the good guys from the bad guys. That's what it's all about. All right, so that's going on. I've got a news story that's just breaking from overseas. Several buses in the nation of Israel have exploded. It is believed to be an act of terrorism on the part of Hamas, inasmuch as it is believed that these were set to detonate. No one is reportedly endangered as a result of these explosions. It is overnight in the state of Israel. And so there was no one on the buses. And now, obviously, the Israeli government has shut down their entire mass transit system in an effort to obviously go through all of the buses and all of the other mass transit that exist in Israel and make sure that everything is A-OK in that regard. Secondarily, I find it fascinating, speaking of Israel, that did you see what Hamas did when they turned over the dead Israelis, the dead children that they killed? They paraded the bodies of murdered babies in coffins while blasting celebratory music. They held a celebration. They're required to turn over a certain number of hostages, and this is the first time since the quote-unquote ceasefire brokered in part by Donald Trump that they have handed over deceased bodies, or bodies of people that were killed on the October 7th, 2023 attack. Today, those included 4 deceased individuals, deceased Israelis, 3 of whom were from the same family. The Bibas family, I believe it is. A mother and her 2 children. And these ghouls, these animals, paraded them around the streets to loud celebratory music before handing them over to the Red Cross. In the meantime, there are people that are asking the Israelis to live side by side the individuals that are willing to do this in a, quote, 2-state solution. And it's disgusting. Anyone that would, and by the way, the numbers of people that showed up to this celebration, would you have me believe that these individuals were required to be there? Or did they want to be there? Have they been brainwashed so much that they're willing to celebrate the slaughter of a baby? Of a baby? Well, I suppose in their minds it's a Jewish baby, right? Disgusting. All right, in the meantime, we are celebrating a couple of good things happening in our country, to include DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. This has for a while reminded me of something that I lived through back in the day in the mid-2000s. And I wanted to bring in someone that knows a lot more about it than I do. And I know a pretty good bit about it. So without further ado, let me put it this way. Let me set it up this way. Right now, the federal government is going through a process of shrinking its size through the Department of Government Efficiency. And there have been times where governments have been forced to do this through necessity, where we have been told in these individual places where these forced reductions have happened that that this would destroy the entirety of the community. It would destroy the municipality that existed. I bring in with me a man by the name of David Carrington, who has been the president of the Jefferson County Commission in his past life. He is now retired from that role. But David was instrumental in shrinking the size of government in Jefferson County, walking the county through a bankruptcy and coming out better on the other side as a result of it. He actually wrote a book about it. And David Carrington joins us on the Matt Murphy Show today to revisit that as a microcosm of what the federal government is going through right now. I have not spoken to David in a month of Sundays, and it's good to have him on the Matt Murphy Show. David, how are you, friend?
I'm doing great, Matt. Yourself?
I am fabulous. I understand you're playing pickleball.
Yeah, about 3-4 times a week. Got to keep the body moving, Matt.
No, I love it. I absolutely love it. I will next time I'm in Beham, we'll get a paddle and a court, and we'll go mano a mano, David. See what we can do. Okay.
Well, we might even invite Jay to join us.
You never know. David, give everybody kind of the backstory on Jefferson County. Jefferson County, if I'm not mistaken, it was the largest municipal bankruptcy in the history of the United States. Is that not right?
Until Detroit made us number 2.
Oh, well, I mean,
thank goodness for Detroit, huh?
You can't beat the king, I don't suppose. Talk to everyone about, walk us through, because obviously you were not president of the county commission at the time that they got themselves into this, but talk to us about how this is, it feels like a microcosm of what the federal government is going through. There was a lot of misuse of funds, waste, fraud, abuse. Just talk to everyone who's not familiar about Jefferson County back in the mid-2000s.
Well, Jefferson County is the second largest government in the state of Alabama. The only government larger is the state itself. So it was a huge government. Its GDP was and still is greater than Huntsville, Montgomery, and Mobile combined. So it's a very large economic engine. And when I was first elected to the Jefferson County Commission in 2010, the county was bankrupt. It just wasn't in bankruptcy, something the federal government can't do because I guess they have the ability to just print more money, which is sad. On my first day in office, I was elected president. I think you mentioned that. And 2 of my immediate professors were in federal prison for their actions as county commissioners. One was serving a probated sentence for taking things of value as a county commissioner. And my immediate predecessor was unable to reach consensus among the commissioners on how to address the county's financial crisis. In addition to the commissioners, 18 sewer employees, in addition to 5 private companies, were convicted of crimes involving the county's sewer system. Matt, you'll remember this. Several days into our term, I think it was day 23, a Montgomery, Alabama court judge ruled that the county's occupational licensing tax was passed illegally by the state legislature, and our general operating revenue fell more than 25% overnight. I think it's 28. I didn't look it up, but 25 is good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Since we were legally required to have a balanced budget, like I mentioned, couldn't print money like the federal government, we had to make some tough decisions. One of the first things we did was to cancel questionable contracts, which DOGE is starting to do. We began a line-by-line budget review, which I think what they're doing now is sort of picking low-hanging fruit. They really need to get into forensic audits of each department.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw reimbursements for questionable payments, which DOGE should do, like, I can't remember the number, but you probably will, $1,300 toilet seats or hammers or all that. I think we ought to go back to these companies and ask for rebates or either deduct it from their invoices. And we laid off 1,000 employees.
How many employees did? Well, no, go ahead, David. I'm sorry.
It was about a third of the workforce.
You laid off. So, and just for comparison's sake, for those listening to us in Middle Tennessee, Jefferson County in Alabama is comparable to Davidson County in Tennessee, the Nashville area, in terms of how much economic activity it drove, how much impact it had in the state. You mentioned that it was comparable to the other 3 biggest cities, Mobile, Huntsville, and Montgomery combined. And what was the reaction when you were walking through this with a fine-tooth comb, recognizing that whether or not you declared bankruptcy as a municipality was of no consequence, you were bankrupt, you saw that, you knew that. And I remember you doing some of these things, and I remember even as a libertarian budget hawk that I am, I thought, man, this thing's going to flip upside down before David's done with it. I mean, there were a lot of naysayers during that time when you insisted that these types of cuts had to be done. Were there not?
Including the governor. Hey, man, I want to ask you a question.
All right.
You still use Twitter? I see your post. X, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I see your post. You know that gentleman's sort of involved with Donald Trump on this DOGE thing, isn't he?
That's what I've been told, that they might have some sort of affiliation on all of this. Elon, yeah.
Have you noticed any difference in your X performance over the last 12 months?
I have not. I think it's going like gangbusters, just like it always has.
purchased the company, he reduced the workforce from 7,500 employees to 1,500.
Wow.
80%.
Wow.
I haven't noticed any difference. You haven't noticed any difference. I mean, this whole embedded employment and the people that are laid off, hey, I felt sorry for the 1,000 people that laid off, that we had to lay off. We had to do it because we had to balance the budget. But most organizations, both public and private, are blunted. They have too many people, and they can survive with a lot fewer. So I'll just throw that in for your listeners to chew on for a little bit. But we did fight. The state legislature in Alabama, counties are subdivisions of the state, which I think that's true in most of our states. And so we don't have home rule. We decide how to spend expenditures, but we can't raise revenues. So the legislature illegally passed a law for a revenue source that had been in existence for multiple years illegally. It was challenged. But no members of I shouldn't say no, that's wrong. The majority, a significant majority of the legislators didn't want to reinstate and fix the problem they created. So not only were we not supported by the governor or the legislature, the business community said that bankruptcy would be a black eye. And basically, I was told by the CEO of a New York Stock Exchange company, if I didn't fall in line, I would be toast in the next election. Well, there were 4.5 new commissioners elected in 2010. Each one of us won by more than 60% of the vote. The public wanted the solution fixed. The business community wasn't willing to step up. The governor wasn't willing to step up. The legislature wasn't willing to step up. So, New York Times reporter asked me on the day we filed for bankruptcy, how does it feel? And I said, it feels like we're Colonel Travis at the Alamo. We're surrounded on all sides. And so we were just left on our own. Now, comparing Jefferson County to the federal government is not fair in some regards, one of which is there were only 5 commissioners. So people said all I had to do was get 3 votes. And I always said, no, all I have to do is get 2. I know how I'm voting. Well, in the legislature, you've got all these people with multiple agendas. And I gave a speech last week that might make some of your listeners to think. I asked the people in the audience to write down one adjective for the word politics. Would you like to guess what the most mentioned adjective was?
The first word that comes to my mind that I think an audience would answer is crooked.
Absolutely.
Was I right?
What was their second? Yep, absolutely. Well, hey, you were in the audience, weren't you?
Well, I mean, I've been doing this for a minute or two.
And then I asked them to write down one adjective that described government.
What did they say?
They're all over the board. All over the board.
Mm-hmm.
And what I said was, politics is what gets you elected or reelected. Government is what you do once you get there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what's happened is people have intermixed government and politics. And it gets a stalemate because, congressmen have to run for election every 2 years, so they're always raising money.
Mm-hmm.
They always have political pressures on them. And so it's very difficult to move the ball forward and to solve big problems that our country is facing. But what at the end of the day, and then I'll answer any questions, we spent a full year trying to negotiate a settlement with our creditors, and it wasn't meant to be. So on our last day of our first year in office, we filed what was at the time the largest bankruptcy in U.S. history, municipal bankruptcy. During the 25 months of bankruptcy, we closed the county's hospital. You remember that.
I do.
We fired the lead county attorney. You remember that.
I do.
Everybody said that was crazy to fire your top attorney. We closed satellite courthouses, and you remember the long lines at the downtown courthouse just to get a car tag.
Yep.
We closed one of the county's 2 jails, resulting in overcrowding, and we sold off the county's nursing home. Just to to refresh your memory or to update your listeners, one of the most difficult decisions I had to make was closing the county's hospital, because it was doing a service to the population, but it was losing $15 million a year. It was fully staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It averaged 35 patients a night, while the other hospitals in town had empty beds. My leading Democrat, the person that opposed me the most.
Adversary, yes. Mm-hmm.
Adversary, thank you, Matthew. Told me I shared the financials with him. And he said, David, you don't get it. I said, okay, educate me, John. And he said, hospital has nothing to do with health care. It's a jobs program.
Well, I mean, that it says everything about what you need to know about, I think, what went on with you. And hold for a second, David. I'm going to carry David over for an additional couple of minutes. David Carrington is our guest. He is the former president of the Jefferson County Commission. David made the decision, along with his fellow commissioners, to bankrupt Jefferson County in the state of Alabama, the largest at the time, as he mentioned, municipal bankruptcy in the history of the United States of America, since followed by Detroit, Michigan. But I want you to know how they came out on the other side, because right now we're at a point where they declare bankruptcy. They're closing down the hospital. They closed down one of the jails. David had to make the difficult decision to lay off 1,000 of the people in the workforce, and I think there were only about 3,500 workers total. That's a third of the workforce. And everyone around David Carrington told him he was insane and that the county would literally cease to exist because of the decisions that he made. I'm going to tell you, or let David tell you, how the county's doing now as a result of some of those very difficult decisions. It's 22 after the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. If you're tired of feeling pain, if you feel like no one's listening to your pain or your conversations about pain, you know you have choices when it comes to your care. The Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief, they want to talk with you. They do things a little differently over there. I know, because I'm not only a spokesperson for the Dr. Gill Center, I'm also a patient. What would you do if your pain was gone? Imagine the freedom and the possibility. At the Dr. Gill Center, they've helped literally thousands of people like you get out of pain over the last 30 years, and they can help you too. They have over 60 and probably approaching 70 or 75 years combined experience. The team at the Dr. Gill Center has the knowledge and the expertise and the compassion to help get you pain-free without having to worry about pills, without having to worry about needles that block the pain, or to consider surgery. Take it from me. I don't just talk about him on the radio. I'm a patient at the Dr. Gill Center. Dr. Gill is in Franklin. Go see him at callmepainfree.com online, callmepainfree.com, or 615-882-4838 to schedule an appointment. 615-882-4838, the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief.
Pothole repair is ramping up. Officials say hopefully your patience holds up. Details at 4:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. 27 after the hour. Matt Murphy Show continues until 7 tonight, or they throw us off the radio, whichever comes first. Hey, by the way, I've been remiss in not mentioning this big event that we've got an evening with Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Tickets available at 997WTN.com. I've got more on that coming up. Plus, this is the first chance that we've had to get together since really the election night, right? I mean, election night was the last big party.
Yep.
This is the first opportunity for us to party together with Donald Trump as our president of the United States of America. I'll give you further details coming up just after the 4:30 news on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. A few more moments with a good friend and a former commissioner of Jefferson County, David Carrington. For a hot minute, he was going to run for governor, and I thought he would make an excellent governor of the state of Alabama. I'm sorry that he didn't. One way or the other, he is with us to talk about the difficult decisions made in 2010-2011 zone there as to what to do with Jefferson County, the largest municipality in the state of Alabama. So David, you were called everything but a child of God. I remember, and you know, I wasn't even that good of a friend to you during that time, and I was probably one of your better friends walking through this bankruptcy and walking through the difficult decisions. And one of the reasons I thought about you and continue to think about you is you never shied away from the fact that it was going to be hard. You never shied away from the idea that these were difficult tasks ahead in order to right-size government in a fashion where it becomes more effective and efficient for the people. But there were very dark times when you had to make some of these decisions, were they not?
Oh, surely they were, but you know, all this was accomplished in 3 years. People ask, you know, what can Trump do in 4? A heck of a lot. He's already started on the path. But, you know, I decided, as you know, Matt, first of all, I'm going to go back. No, you were my friend in the media because you let me come on and tell the people the truth, whether they wanted to hear it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And you asked some tough questions. And hopefully I gave you honest answers. I mean, they surely, from my point of view, were honest answers. But I was a strong believer in term limits. I didn't run for office after my second term. And part of our problem in government today is the embedded politicians. I mean, to paraphrase Einstein, electing the same politicians year after year and expecting different results is insanity. And that's what we have. But you want me to talk about where the county is now?
Yes.
The county's fiscally and operationally secure. They actually have all the reserve buckets filled for every tragedy that can happen. The county is experiencing surpluses. The jail was reopened. All satellite courthouses are open. The county actually pays the other hospitals for the indigent patients. And we sold the county home that was appraised at $8.3 million for $11.2 million by breaking up the assets, and we eliminated a $4.5 million deficit there, plus the $15 million we were losing on the hospital. So those two things alone, you know, created about $20 million in savings on a budget at that time was about $300 million for our general operating. So you know, that was a 7% reduction just in those two actions alone, not including the other things that we're doing.
Well, it was an incredible success story. I encourage people that want to learn more to, I mean, you know, a lot of this is in your book, is it not?
No, yeah, we go chapter by chapter. We talk about the county home, the bankruptcy, the firing the county attorney, we go deep into negotiations with the creditors. I guess I should have mentioned we got more than $1.5 billion worth of concessions, primarily from J.P. Morgan, who, quite frankly, they were the ones that robbed the county commissioners and others. And so, yeah, we go into those negotiations and we go into basically, I know you've heard me say this before, you never back someone in the corner because 4 things can happen and each one's bad. You knock him out, he knocks you out, you lose your face or he loses his face. And it got to the point that we just were backed in the corner and we told the creditors, if you don't settle on these terms, we'll fight you till hell freezes over. And within that was a Friday, and on Monday they agreed to our terms.
David, so good to catch up with you. So good to hear this story again. It just reminds me that with a can-do spirit and a can-do attitude and somebody that's willing to put a pencil to paper, you can accomplish things like this. I encourage people that want to learn more to pick up your book. If memory serves, it's Open Doors. Is that right?
Yeah, it's on Amazon. It's called Open Doors, and they'll type in Open Doors and my name, it'll pop right up. And I think we're in our third. Matter of fact, I know we're in our third printing now. We have to decide if we're going to print it one more time. So, if your listeners want it, tell them to go out and buy it.
It's a great example when someone enters government with a servant's heart and understands the task in front of them, how you can accomplish anything. And I believe we're watching that happen before us on the macro scale, as Jefferson County did it on the micro scale. David, good to see you, and pickleball next time I see you, okay?
Okay, brother.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Take care. There's David Carrington. We'll be back in a moment, 33 after the hour.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. We've got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Pothole repair ramping up across Middle Tennessee. This is a TDOT spokesperson telling Channel 4 today.
We're going to see a lot of potholes because it's just that is the recipe for potholes. The wet weather, then freezing weather, and then a thaw. That is how potholes are made. So we just ask, please be patient. We're going to be patching a lot.
They ask that you report potholes online or over the phone. TDOT if it's a state road or interstate. NDOT if it's a road that Nashville covers. President Trump at the White House today with Tiger Woods at an event in the East Room celebrating Black History Month and talking about immigration.
We want them to come in legally. They're going to come through legally. So we're protecting American workers, including millions of black workers.
In a 51-49 vote, the Senate confirmed the nation's next FBI director, Kash Patel. Senators Susan Collins of Maine and Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, with the two Republicans to vote no in a split that otherwise fell along party lines. Patel has vowed to steer the FBI towards its traditional crime-fighting role rather than an intelligence-gathering role. Elon Musk proposing money for Americans from the amount saved by DOGE. President Trump on board. What do his economic advisors say? Here's Karen Travers at the White House.
President Trump says his administration is considering giving back to Americans 20% of the savings from the work of the Department of Government Efficiency.
I love it, a 20% dividend, so to speak.
Asked today about concerns that money going back to Americans could be inflationary, the president's top economic advisor, Kevin Hassett, said, quote, absolutely not.
And if you give people money, then they're going to save a bunch of it. And when they save it, then that also reduces demand and reduces inflation.
Well, they might use it to pay down credit card debt. TransUnion reporting today the average balance per American consumer is $6,580 for an increase of 3.5% year over year. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Over on the North Loop, got a crash blocking the right shoulder on-ramp 65 northbound from 2465. And then over by the airport, right shoulder blocked by 3 vehicles that collided 40 eastbound at Briley Parkway. And 24 eastbound near Sam Ridley Parkway. Highway Patrol reporting a crash there in Smyrna. Back up to Antioch now. Police reporting a crash 24 westbound after Haywood Lane. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Friends, if you are looking to upgrade your cabinets, whether it's your kitchen, your bath, your secondary room, closets, outdoor, garage space, office space, entertainment space, there is one-stop shopping at Cabinet Solutions in Hendersonville. But don't take my word for it. Let's talk with Tony with Cabinet Solutions. Tony, what's going on?
Hey, Matt. We're excited about our open house, as you know.
I bet you are.
March 1st is coming up in about a week.
Yeah, tell us all about it. So normally you get appointments for folks to come through the showroom, but this big open house is for anybody and everybody that wants to look at Cabinet Solutions as a solution to some of their cabinet issues.
That's right. They can ask all kinds of questions, kick the tires, look at everything. We can walk them through just about anything. We've got 15 brands of cabinetry here, Matt. There's no other cabinet company in Middle Tennessee doing anything like that. We're crazy. We've got everything.
Well, I know you do custom cabinetry design, and you also have other types and styles of cabinets to showcase in your incredible showroom. Just looking through this showroom, it is a fabulous place to come up with ideas, and I know that you'll have a team on staff and ready to go March 1st to help with some of those ideas that folks might have.
That's right. We'll have a team of people here to talk to every one of them. So they need to come on out here, and they don't even have to wait for the open house. They can go to mycabinetsolution.com. That's mycabinetsolution.com, and they can go to the contact tab, fill out that form, and we get back to them and set up an appointment, or they can just show up here on Saturday.
There it is, folks. Saturday, the 1st of March, and don't forget about that big 15% off sale. It's something that rarely happens at Cabinet Solutions, but they're doing it for the big open house. That is 15% off now through March. Go to mycabinetsolution.com, I should say, mycabinetsolution.com. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I just want to reiterate, for those of you, maybe, and there's a couple of you, like, why are we talking about Jefferson County, Alabama? There is nothing new under the sun. And when good people get into situations where they're trying to solve very difficult and complex issues, and as David Carrington illustrated for Jefferson County, Alabama, for those who don't know, that's Birmingham, Metro Birmingham. They do not have a metro form of government. So David was not only dealing with creditors, he was not only dealing with a sewer debacle that happened before he got into office. He was dealing with corruption. He was dealing with former lawmakers who were in jail. But he was also dealing with 34 different municipalities. I mean, imagine if Davidson County was a series of different municipalities. If there were and I understand that there are several municipalities here, but once again, it's not consolidated government. But he alone, along with his fellow commissioners, I should say, it wasn't him alone, but he led the charge, had to make these difficult decisions to shut down the county hospital, to shut down one of the courthouses, to shut down one of the jails, to shut down all of the satellite offices, to fire, we say lay off, fire 1,000 of the some 3,500 employees, a third of the workforce. And all of the mainstream media and all of these other officials and all of these state people and everybody that could have helped that decided not to all said the same thing. This guy's insane, and that Jefferson County would cease to exist as an entity because of the municipal bankruptcy. And instead, they tightened their belts. They did what they had to do. It wasn't pleasant, and they came out better on the other side of it. More efficient government. Less waste, less fraud, less abuse. Oh, guess what? No politicians since David Carrington have gone to jail in Jefferson County. And like 4 of them went to jail before him. Imagine that. Because there's no money to lead them to jail because there's no money to steal anymore. So I just use that as a microcosm of what is happening right now on the macro when it comes to Donald Trump and DOGE. It's a pretty special thing that we're watching. Do not allow the naysayers to get you down. Do not allow the naysayers to get you down. Waco writes in and says, Matt, these will keep the sweat out of your eyes when you're trying to beat David at pickleball. Oh, that's nice. Have you sent me some of these? Taco or whatever your name is there. Waco, not Taco. Waco. Waco, not Taco. Have y'all? Do you see this? Or you got the super text line?
I don't have it up. What is it? Some headbands?
Headband and a wristband. Taco over here is offering me a rainbow set of.
Ooh, nice.
That's nice. Look, I want to make rainbows again. I don't have a problem wearing rainbow. I mean, I don't like the fact that the gay community has co-opted the rainbow to the point that if you wear a rainbow on your person, you're supposedly supporting some sort of gay cause or event. I mean, I'm whatever on the gay cause or event. I just like the idea of being able to wear a multicolored thing. Remember when I wore my shirt the other day? I was accused.
The loud one?
Yeah. I don't know that it was loud. I mean, it was multicolored.
Yeah.
And I got accused of supporting LGBTQ issues. I'm just wearing a shirt. So whatever, Taco, you bring it. I'll wear them.
Taco.
Oh, Waco. Pardon me. His name's Waco. Name's not Taco, Ken. Come on. Get it right.
I'm going to get me one of those little chihuahuas and name it Taco.
Oh, that'd be good, wouldn't it?
Yo quiero Taco Bell.
That was the one. Hey, Frank's been holding for a time in mid-Tennessee. Hey, Frank, what's up? Hey, Frank. Frank we might have lost Frank. Frankly, for the length of time that Frank held to make this telephone call, Frank might be not with us anymore.
He might have fallen in a pothole.
He might have fallen in a pothole. He might have fallen asleep. He might be having dinner by now. Frank, I'm going to give you a going once. God bless you, going twice. Sold. Mike is next in Old Hickory. Hello, Mike.
How you doing?
Mike, I'm great. I hope you are.
I am. And I'm going to give you 5 senators in the Republican Party, and I want you to either agree or disagree with me that they are the obstructionists to Donald Trump's plan to get this great country back again.
Okay.
And so I'm going to name them, and I want you to, and then I'll hang up, and then you can research these 5 senators and tell me whether or not you think they're really good Republicans, good Trump supporters are just liars and cheats.
Okay.
Number one, Lisa McCursky.
Okay.
Number two, Susan Collins. Number three, John Cornyn of Texas. Number four, Lindsey Grahamnesty. And number five, who just announced his retirement, Mitch McConnell. These are five so-called Republican senators that back the Republican Party. Lies. They hate Trump. And so they're going to do everything they can to stop it. And then I've got a sixth one.
Oh, yeah.
And he's kind of in the background, Bill Haggerty.
What has Haggerty done that bothers you so much?
He just gets on TV just to get on TV. He says, we got to do this. We got to do that. We got to do this. We got to do that. And nothing gets done. Now, he's been in there long enough, and he's Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee have got enough connections. They could sway these so-called five rhinos. But apparently they don't want to do it. Because guess what? We've got an election coming up next year. If Trump's tax cuts are not passed this year, his permanent tax cuts this year, we're going to face the biggest debacle in the Republican Party you've ever seen. Because the American people have told the Republican people, the people said, Donald Trump, you now are in there. You got the popular vote. You don't have a massive vote in the House. You don't have a massive vote in the Senate. You got the people's vote. And if you don't get this done, the Republican Party is going to be thrown out in droves in 2026.
Mike, I don't want to interrupt you because I know you're on a toot there. I mean, and I appreciate it.
I am because, I'm on a toot because I'm sick of the Republican Party getting up there and saying, well, we got to do this, we got to do that, and they don't do it.
Well, but here's the deal. Last month, Daddy's been home, right? So do we fault the Senate? He's gotten
Kash Patel.
Mike, you got to use your ears too, buddy. You got to use your ears too.
You got to use your ears. Kash Patel got voted by one.
I can use my fingers, buddy. Now I put him on hold because I'm trying to be nice. But Mike, I got fingers as well as ears. I let you. Have you stopped yet? I let you talk. I'm just trying to have a discussion right now. Can we have a discussion? I'm just trying to make you feel. I'm trying to make you feel better about all this. I'm trying to make you feel better. Now, if you don't want to feel better, that's one thing. But
go ahead. Let's look at facts after you lecture.
What? I'm not lecturing anybody. What Donald Trump nominee has the Senate let him down on?
Two Republicans. Kash Patel got elected by one. Should have been elected by 70, 80, in the whole Senate.
Brother, 50, whether it's 51 or 99 or 100, he's going to be FBI director, man.
Yeah, but guess what?
Can't we just? I'm just asking you to enjoy the wins. Can you spend a moment? No, but can you just?
Let me ask you. Then have the meeting's going to say he only got elected by one. So therefore, half the country doesn't want him there.
It doesn't matter. So
it does matter.
I'm just asking you to enjoy the winning. Can you not enjoy the winning for just a second? Kash Patel is going to be our FBI director. Pete Hegseth is our Secretary of Defense.
Thank God, but two Republicans voted against him.
Who gives a damn about those two Republicans, Mike? They're losers.
I do give a damn because we got to build.
Care? Why are you focused on the losing?
And we're not building. We're only hoping one vote in the House and the Senate.
Mike, then I would encourage you to move to Maine or Alaska and solve the problem.
I moved to Tennessee.
No. Mike, moved. The Tennessee senators voted for Kash Patel.
They did. But they're in the background.
But
they're in the background, not putting. Did you see Marsha Blackburn? Marsha Blackburn and Bill Haggerty getting on the Senate steps like the Democrats do?
You can't.
Democrats.
Mike,
the Democrats are socialist communists.
Mike, tell me something.
The Republicans,
Mike, tell me something you're happy
the
about.
Republicans never get on the steps saying we're going to stop this. No, all they do is negotiate.
Mike.
Hey, so we're going to give them this, give them that, and we always give up.
Who's giving up? We're not giving up anything, Mike. Who's giving up?
Do you think that any investigations are going to happen when it's 50-50?
Wait, Kash Patel. That's who we want, right? Kash Patel.
What can he do?
He's the FBI director, man.
What can he do?
Well, you tell me. Well, then why does it matter if he got confirmed if there's nothing he can do?
He got confirmed because he could be manipulated.
Okay, so now wait a minute. Hold on. So now
Republicans voted against him and with the Democrats. It's all Democrats.
Let's be happy.
Running everything.
Let's be happy.
So who's going to be manipulated? And I tell you what, Matt. I tell you what. If he comes out and says, I'm firing the whole senior staff of the FBI, I will believe you.
Okay. What is there anything else to be happy about? Or
not what's going on now, unless these guys that got confirmed start doing their job. If all of a sudden they say, well, we're going to have 2 bills or 3 bills, or Kash says, well, I can't fire all of them. No, Kash needs to say, you're gone. If Kash says all of the top staff of the FBI is gone, then I'll believe you.
Hey, Mike, we got Trumpy Trump.
We got Trump, but he's only 4 years.
No.
Next year,
hey, no. Say it the way I did.
2026.
Say it the way I did.
2026.
Say God bless Trumpy Trump.
Nope. I'm going to say if Trump wins,
well,
then
I'm just trying to have a little fun, Mike. I'm just trying to calm everything down.
And every time we have a little fun, we're $36 trillion in debt.
Well, I mean, I think we're trying to do something about it. You know?
So until Kash Patel says all the top level is gone, and then when Pam Bondi says all of you are gone,
Mike, you're going to have a heart attack.
DOGE and get this. Elon Musk says, look at the trillions wasted.
Mike.
Look at the trillions wasted.
Mike.
When I see the leaders of those
worried about your health
departments say, you're all gone. You're all gone. Then I'll believe it.
Michael, I'm worried about your health. I am.
Yeah, well, I'm worried about the country.
Well, I am too.
People like you just keep getting in bed with Democrats.
I wish I had 1,000 mics in my life. Y'all know that? I wish every caller was Mike. I do. God bless you, Mike. 55 after the hour. We got to go. For the record, Mike rocks. Absolutely rocks. I don't know what Mike's T levels are, but Mike, if you have any questions, Tennessee Men's Clinic is here for you, buddy. Tennessee Men's Clinic is available for all the Mikes of the world and everybody else. If you're worried about your T level, if you're perhaps concerned about your energy level, I don't know that Mike would be, but if you are, then there's Tennessee Men's Clinic in your life. You know, they do concern themselves with your overall health, and their qualified urologist will go over that health analysis when you stop by. Professional and discreet. Those are the words of the day, right, with Tennessee Men's Clinic. They understand that these are personal issues, and, you know, but there's no shame in this game either, right? They understand that with these issues come intimacy problems, relationship issues can follow, and if any of this is following you around, make an appointment with the Tennessee Men's Clinic today. They can get you right again on your T-level front, get you your energy level back where it ought to be, and get you back into the game, if you will, when it comes to intimacy in your romantic relationships. They have 2 locations to serve you. One is in Franklin, and the other is the original location in Midtown. Go and see them or schedule that call today, 615 208-9090. 208-9090 for Tennessee Men's Clinic.
Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. We've got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Police in Israel investigating after reports of explosions involving 3 buses south of Tel Aviv. They were empty and in separate parking lots at the time, so no injuries. Authorities say it's a suspected terror attack, and they're looking for suspects. Public transit in Tel Aviv is paused for now. Internal Revenue Service has started laying off more than 6,000 new and newly promoted employees across the country, according to sources who tell ABC News it's all part of President Trump and Elon Musk's campaign to shrink the federal workforce. Here's political director Rick Klein.
We've seen the Department of Government Efficiency go kind of department by department. And yes, the Internal Revenue Service is the latest to be hit. Elon Musk appeared on stage tonight at a conservative gathering with a chainsaw and said, look, the ultimate goal of all of this is to return more money to taxpayers.
Kash Patel to be sworn in as the next FBI director.
The yeas are 51. The nays are 49. The confirmation is confirmed.
Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski, the two Republicans who voted nay. The White House press briefing today marking exactly 1 month since President Trump took office for his second term. Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller.
No president comes close to what Donald Trump has achieved over just the last 30 days.
Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt.
The president has already signed 73 executive orders. That is more than double the number signed by Joe Biden and more than quadruple the number signed by Barack Obama over the same period.
And then National Security Advisor Mike Walls was asked whether Trump's being manipulated by Vladimir Putin in talks to end the war in Ukraine.
If there's anybody in this world that can go toe-to-toe with Putin, that could go toe-to-toe with Xi, that could go toe-to-toe with Kim Jong-un, and we could keep going down the list. It's Donald J. Trump.
7-term Kentucky U.S. Senator Mitch McConnell says that's enough.
Representing our Commonwealth has been the honor of a lifetime. I will not seek this honor an 8th time.
Today is McConnell's 83rd birthday. He was first elected in 1984 and became the longest-serving Senate leader in U.S. history. Food recall impacting a breakfast product sold in Tennessee, Kentucky, and several other states. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration says they are Berry Buddies, berries and pancakes, sold at Kroger and Meijer stores. Officials say they contain wheat and eggs that are not listed on the label, posing a risk to people with allergies. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Murfreesboro got a crash, 24 westbound after Joe B. Jackson Parkway, blocking the right shoulder. In Hermitage, a crash, Lebanon Pike at Old Hickory Boulevard. And then in Madison, injury accident reported by police. Tennessee 45 at Myatt Drive. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is the Matt Murphy Radio Show, Super Talk 99.7, WTN 507. Earlier today, Kash Patel was confirmed by the United States Senate. He will be sworn in tomorrow, it's my understanding, as the next FBI director. I believe that ceremony happening at 1:35 Middle Tennessee time. The push against a DOGE is on. Sadly, Mike and I had a conversation last hour that devolved before I was able to provide Mike with some analysis on some of the individuals that he said were concerning to him, primarily 5 separate senators, Murkowski, Collins. I wrote these down. Murkowski, Collins, Cornyn, Graham, and Mitch McConnell. I'm on the record as saying that Mitch McConnell should go today, not wait until 2026. Several of you, after I posted this on social media, you can find me on the social media platform X at Matt Murphy Show. Cesspool. I mean, just a cesspool over there, but I absolutely love it. You can I went over that. I just think McConnell should go now, and several of you are asking, well, wouldn't Beshears appoint a Democrat? No, in Kentucky, they changed the law in Kentucky, and now the governor doesn't have anything to do about filling that vacancy. The governor just schedules the next special election, and then the people of the state of Kentucky would determine who replaces Mitch McConnell, and I think they would get a better individual immediately if he were to step down. And based on the speech that he gave earlier today, he probably needs to step down. Some of you not very impressed with our conversation with Mike. John writes in and says, I bet if you gave Mike $100, he would gripe that it was from a Democrat. Well, if I gave it to him, he would, because he called me a Democrat or said I was comporting with Democrats. But then 5510, I love you and I appreciate you. And you're very angry at me, and I understand. You say, this is sad. You should be ashamed for dragging a drunk on the radio with you. 5510, I would suggest to you that I have no idea what people have consumed prior to coming on the radio with me. I do not believe that there is any prohibition against using a telephone while imbibing. I don't know if Mike had any alcohol in his system whatsoever, and I would suggest to you that it is an unfortunate assumption that you would suggest that Mike was inebriated in any fashion. Perhaps he was just anxiety-filled or frustrated with the current state of affairs in Washington, D.C. and beyond. But 5510 continued and said, lazy show prep. Do you prep? If you did, you wouldn't have to fill 20 minutes with a sad drunk. Well, hell, if I prepped, I wouldn't have to fill the last 3 minutes with your commentary on Super Talk, the text machine. But I don't, and so I do. Anyway, speaking of fun things to do while drinking, if you want to come out and see us, I encourage you to go over to 997WTN.com. That's 997WTN.com to find out more about our big event. It's really the first time that we all have had an opportunity to get together to celebrate the election of Donald Trump. Mike, you're invited. Mike, if Mike calls back, if he calls you back, Chris Webber, and is willing to come, I will buy him a ticket to the event.
Wow. Okay.
And that includes a big buffet and non-alcoholic beverages. And I'm not saying that because I think you've had a few, Mike. I'm saying that because the alcoholic beverages actually cost more. But, yeah, the tickets are available to our big event at Nashville Palace. We're in the big room at Nashville Palace, right across the street from, Gaylord, Opryland, and all of that. Nashville Palace, right off of Bradley Parkway. You come and see us. Tickets available at 997WTN.com. They include your non-alcoholic beverages and a buffet, all-you-can-eat buffet. Plus, you get to see all of us. That would be yours truly, Dan Mandis, Chad Benson, Chris Hand, and many, many others from the radio station. And you are invited. And, Mike, if you call Chris, I'll tell you what, I'll give you till 5:30, Mike. Just call Chris by 5:30, and I will buy your ticket if you're willing to come and be my special guest to the event. I will not be purchasing a ticket for Representative Scott Sapicki, but I would love to see Scott there. Hello, Scott.
How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I've been listening.
Have you now?
Very interesting.
Mike's not happy.
Well, just remember, folks, that, if you win your Georgia Bulldogs, if they win every game next year by 1 point, They hand him the trophy.
I'm a happy camper.
They hand you the trophy, right?
Yeah, that's what we anticipate.
And so far, everything looks like it's going very well in Washington with the people we have in place trying to get this country back under control.
It looks pretty good from that perspective. I mean, I would have, at the beginning of the cabinet process, and I understand that there are a few to go, labor is one of them. I think we still have Linda McMahon to be confirmed as education secretary, and a few others. But I would have bet you by now that the Democrats would have managed to grab 3 or 4 Republicans and pick one off. They have not been able to do that. Donald Trump has gotten the selections that he made as president, rightly so, and I feel like that's a win.
Well, if you look at what he's been doing as president since his inauguration, it's been just incredible. I mean, the things he's doing to put America back on the world stage as a leader of where he should be, and then the people he's putting around him, our press secretary is outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's
Caroline
just
Levitt,
unbelievable.
So good.
And then all these other people, and they're doing a great job for the people of this country who gave a mandate in November that we want this craziness stopped, and that's what he's doing, and he's doing a great job.
Hopefully we've got good things coming out of the General Assembly as well. Obviously, special session took up a lot of air.
Yes.
And there was a lot of conversation and consternation about what would come out of that. That was, I would expect from your opinion, a very successful special.
Outstanding. We solved our school choice issue in Tennessee. We also solved, we attacked immigration, and then we solved disaster relief for East Tennessee.
What are we doing in the General Assembly? We're back in session, right?
We are. Education is in full swing right now. It's been very interesting right now. Our cell phone bill we talked about with you earlier about prohibiting cell phone use during instructional time, that cleared the first hurdle in the subcommittee. It'll be held in the full committee, and hopefully that'll be on the House floor in about 2 weeks. We have another one about direct intervention with our school systems that are failing school systems. Currently, they're going to have to go before the State Board of Education, and if they don't give a good plan on how they're going to turn their district around, then that can be referred to the commissioner. And I would say what the Speaker has alluded to, look for legislation that if you are a failing school district in this state of Tennessee, that we have an obligation to step in and start to run the district ourselves from Nashville.
The obvious one that comes to mind is Memphis. There has been conversation that I have heard about the possibility of the state taking over the Memphis system. Have you heard those same conversations, and what, if anything, can you tell us about that?
Well, what I'm going to tell you is this: since I've been in the General Assembly for 7 years, we've been very concerned with the way Memphis has been educating their children and the way they've been heading, especially academically. You know what's happening we have truancy issues down there, we have discipline issues down there, and you throw on top of that some of the lowest test scores. We've got some schools, Matt, that their high school test scores are less than 5% are on grade level. Unacceptable. And with the amount of money we are pumping into education right now, especially in Memphis, we have got to get better returns on our investment to help that city get turned around economically. And so I think what you're going to see here probably in the next week or so, you'll see legislation filed that allows the Commissioner of Education under a couple things, lack of academic performance, poor management, or failing fiscal reviews. I think you'll get the commissioner have the power to appoint a overseeing board down in a district, and they will choose their new superintendent, and that district management team will answer to the state of Tennessee.
What is the metric to determine a failing school, and how many, if you know, are there in the state of Tennessee right now?
Well, it hovers.
A system, I should say.
I would say you're probably looking at maybe 15 to 20 that are D or F. That's way too many. Some of our major metropolitan cities will give you a little false advertising about how well they're doing when they start talking about growth. Growth does not mean a child knows how to read on grade level. Growth does not mean a child knows how to do math on grade level. It means you have grown them one academic year in an academic year. But here's what I'm going to tell you. If you have high academic scores, high achievement scores, you have high growth. But you can have high growth and not one of your children knows how to read or do math on grade level. And so that's what we're very concerned about. And I think what you're going to see, I'm running a bill right now. One of the things that the State Board of Education does not have is subpoena power. For these hearings we got coming up with DRF districts, we are going to run a bill that gives them subpoena power so that they can compel these people to come to Nashville.
Wait, so the leaders of these individual districts that are currently failing their school children and the parents, they just don't show up?
Well, we have no way to compel them to show up with the State Board of Education. So we're going to run a bill that gives them the power to compel those individuals to show up along with the documentation they need for them to show us how they're going to turn these districts around. We're not going to let it just ride anymore that, hey, you're going to get it turned around, whoever that may be. You're going to have to come to the state board who are people who are high-versed in educational policy and convince them that you have a good, solid plan to get that district turned around.
You mentioned a number of pieces of legislation that you and I have talked about over our time together, and I want to break them down one by one, starting with the cell phone legislation. And I'll start the conversation by asking a question from 7670.
Okay.
He writes in, or he or she writes in, ask him how he plans to enforce the cell phone bill. He doesn't teach, so I will wait for his answer.
Very good question and a very easy answer to that. Sometimes when we write legislation, we don't put a mechanism of enforcement in it. In this bill, we're putting a mechanism of enforcement that in the student handbook of conduct, they have to have a plan on if a student violates this section of student conduct, what their punishment will be. Up until, if it's multiple violations, it could be suspension and or expulsion. We are dead serious about this, Matt, because I can show you the data that when you get these cell phones out of these kids' hands during instructional time, discipline issues wane, and academic scores start to go up.
So functionally, how does it work for those who perhaps have not heard our previous conversation? Sure. So I go into my class. How does it work?
So what you're going to have is, and if it kind of deals with the whole. Remember we did the whole school safety plan that we passed a couple of years ago to provide funds for districts or for schools to have a better security. One of the things they had to do was a school safety assessment, and I don't know. If you walk into a classroom, there's a certain point in that classroom that they have the kids go to in the event of a incident that you can't look into the classroom and see the kids. So what they would do is they would hang those, I call them like the little sock holders that you see in the back of your closet door, has 15 or 20 little pocket holes there. What happens is the kids go into the classroom, they walk back to that concealed area on the wall, and they just hang their cell phone there, turn it off and hang it there. The reason why you do that is if you remember all of like the Covenant shootings and stuff, some of the first people reporting it were students. So what they do is you put them in that corner, so if there's something that happens and the teacher says go to the safe spot, they're going where their phones are so they can access them in an emergency. Or the teacher can say, hey, for this part of the lesson, I need you to go and get your phone. They go get their phone, they come back, they sit in their desk, they do what they need, and the teacher says go put it back, and they go and put it back.
So functionally, and I'm just trying to live in the real world here, Scott. Sure. Functionally, if I'm in a high school, I'm in what, 6 classes a day, 7 classes a day?
Yeah.
And so we're doing this in 6 or 7 different classes?
Unless.
Is that not time? I mean, would that not take up a little much time?
No, most of your private schools do it right now, Matt.
Okay.
The kids walk in, they know what to do, they walk back there, they put it there, and they go and sit down. Here's what's interesting.
Isn't it currently, and I just want to play devil's advocate, isn't it currently impermissible for a student to pull out their cell phone during class?
If a district says so.
Okay, so then why is this a problem?
Because not all districts do it and enforce it. So we'll have an enforcement mechanism from the state as a bare minimum. Now, Warren County, they do it from bell to bell. They've already got a policy from bell to bell. So when this law passes, they're good to go. But they've noticed that in their high school classrooms, because you've got these cell phones out of these kids' hands, that now when a teacher is teaching and the teacher asks the classroom a question, the kids are talking back and forth about their answers and trying to figure out, well, why do you believe this way, Matt? Well, here's the reason why I believe that way. And you're getting that interaction of learning in the classroom again where kids are talking to each other.
Boy, I'd love 7670 to call. If you can, call us 7670. On the super text line, he says, do you want us to teach or do you want us to monitor cell phone usage, Scott?
Well, you're going to be able to teach because you're going to have the mechanism of the district behind you now. You're not going to have to sit there and every day do this. The kids are going to get into a routine where they're going to know, they're just going to respond.
Your contention is, and I think I hear what you're saying, is that if you set that expectation, then eventually you might have some rough patches early on in implementation. But the expectation being set, then eventually the kids will get accustomed to the expectation.
And that's correct, and they will respond appropriately.
22 after the hour. We'll talk about recess and other matters coming up in just a moment with the Representative Scott Sapicki. It's the Matt Murphy Radio Show. You're invited to get involved. 615-737-9986, 737-9986. Stand by. So when you talk about healthcare insurance, I mean, I got to be honest with you, folks. Sometimes I just my eyes glaze over because the numbers and the different programs and the different policies and the different approaches and the different sub thing here and the clause here. It's just very confusing. And I think I'm a pretty smart guy. Well, if you feel the same way that it is confusing about how much you're paying, how much did you pay last year for your health insurance? What did you really get? What was your coverage? Well, I know somebody. I know a guy. His name's Shane Ring, and he's with Cover Nash. And let me tell you, Shane can give you all of the numbers. He crunches these in such a way. And when I sat down with Shane, by the way, in his Brentwood office, you can do the same thing. You can sit down with Shane and learn firsthand exactly how much you're paying, exactly what type of coverage you're getting, and what your options are that are available for you in the market today. Shane's not a call center agent. He sits down with you and he talks with you directly one-on-one. That's why he calls his company Cover Nash. That's Nashville, after all. So when I sat down with him, he went over my policy with me, talked to me about what I'm getting, what I'm not getting, what I'm paying, and what I'm not paying for. I mean, it was eye-opening to learn that literally you can get paid back on some insurance coverage plans that they pay you, not the other way around. Ask him about this when you talk to Shane Ring. Health coverage tailored to your needs, not managed by the government, but managed by you. It happens with Cover Nash. Any and all questions, 615-465-0023, 465-0023, or go online to covernash.com.
Potential terrorist attacks being investigated in Israel. Right now in Tennessee, education legislation is advancing. And today marks exactly 1 month of the second Trump presidency. We'll let you hear some of what went on over at the White House press briefing today. That's all at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm going to give another one. Woo-hoo! It's a two woo-hoo day on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. 5:27. Hey, Ninkoops in the news. If y'all want to nominate Ninkoops in the news coming up in about 10 minutes, if y'all want to nominate Sapicki, now's a good time to do it. 615-737-9986. What?
Do it while I'm here.
I mean, you're here.
Do it while I'm here.
That's what I'm trying to do. By the way, did Mike call back? I saw you on the phone with somebody.
Yes, he did. I actually sent you his information. He did call back, but he said there is a caveat here. He will take you up on your offer, but you have to get Elon Musk to come and answer some questions.
Okay.
So if you do that, then he's all in. So
is that what he said?
That's what he said.
Was he nicer to you?
Yeah, he was actually
pleasant,
fairly pleasant.
Okay, yes. I didn't mean to argue with.
He had calmed down.
Okay, I didn't mean to argue with Mike. He seemed very worked up.
Elon might cut the menu in half.
Well, heck, Elon might cut the cost of the tickets in half. You never know what Elon's going to slash. I would love to have Elon Musk there, Mike, and we're going to work on that post haste. Speaking of working on things, Scott Sapicki working on a number of different education-related bills, and 7940 writes in and says, I'm a high school principal, and we have a cell phone policy in place during instruction. We have cell phone holders hanging on our walls. Did you tell this guy to call?
No, I did not. No, I did not.
We have cell phone holders hanging on our walls. It works well. We have a school policy with discipline for cell phone misconduct. The biggest issue, parents wanting their children to have access to their phones at all times. Wow.
It'll be okay, Mom and Dad. It'll be okay.
Referring to testing and accountability, my school has highest ACT in the country. Or in the county, 99% graduation rate, high achievement. I wish more was put on the ACT instead of the EOCS because they do not matter to students.
End of course.
Oh, yeah.
End of course.
Sure. Talk to me real quick about recess.
Yes, recess. Right now in our elementary schools, recess is supposed to be 130 minutes a week, minimum of 15 minutes a day.
Mm-hmm.
Most of that is going to default to the minimum. So our elementary kids are getting about 15 to 20 minutes a day. Now, we have child obesity problems. We have kids that don't socialize very well. We have discipline problems, and we have poor academic scores. Districts across the country that have increased the amount of recess for elementary kids have shown an exponentially increase in academic scores, better socialization skills, less discipline problems, better teacher satisfaction, and the kids are getting the exercise they need to combat childhood obesity.
How about that?
And so I'm working on a bill right now with some ladies called Say Yes to Recess. You can go out there and Google that and find that. You probably want to have them on here one time. They will give you the what for on exactly why recess is so beneficial to kids. But we're running it. We're going to increase it from 15 minutes a day to 40 minutes a day. We're going to get these kids outside more. We're going to get them out in the fresh air. We're going to let them go out and play, let them be kids so that they'll burn off all that energy so that when they come back in the classroom, the teachers have kids that are ready to focus. And we're going to get better test scores, and we're going to drive this thing forward.
You know, you got to come up with it. Say yes to recess. That's SYTR. We got to come up with a better something or another. I thought it I need something that spells out like fatty. Like furthering access to.
Now, the young ladies, the moms know I'm on the radio today. Ladies, that was Matt Murphy saying that.
Isn't that a part of it, though?
No, it was Matt Murphy saying that.
Our kids are tubby.
Send your hate mail to 99.7.
No, Sapicki said that the kids are too tubby.
No. Here we go.
Furthering. See, I'm just thinking out loud. I'm brainstorming. There's no bad idea in a brainstorm. Furthering access to
recess today.
That's fart. That's great. Furthering access to recess today.
Wonderful.
The fart bill.
Wonderful.
I'm here to help.
I hate you right now.
Thank you. Thank you, Scott Sapicki.
You need a haircut.
I do. And I'm going to work on that. 32 after the hour. There's Scott Sapicki. We're back after this with Ninkoops in the news right after this.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. We've got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Right now, Israeli police investigating bus explosions near Tel Aviv as terror attacks. 3 buses involved in separate explosions. All of them were parked. No one on board, so no injuries. But all public transportation services paused right now in Tel Aviv. Here in Tennessee, House Education Subcommittee Chair Scott Sapicki telling WTN's Matt Murphy education legislation's advancing in the General Assembly.
Now, our cell phone bill we talked about with you earlier about prohibiting cell phone use during instructional time, that cleared the first hurdle in the subcommittee. It'll be held in the full committee, and hopefully that'll be on the House floor in about 2 weeks.
Another one deals with direct intervention for failing school systems.
Currently, they're going to have to go before the State Board of Education. And if they don't give a good plan on how they're going to turn their district around, then that can be referred to the commissioner. And I would say what the speaker has alluded to, look for legislation that if you are a failing school district in this state of Tennessee, that we have an obligation to step in and start to run the district ourselves from Nashville.
Another law being discussed at the state capitol would allow school board members to be recalled. Right now in our nation's capital, today marks exactly 1 month of the second Trump presidency. And at the White House press briefing, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz says the president is a deal maker in chief, expressing confidence in Trump's ability to end the war in Ukraine.
We have to talk to both sides in order to get to both sides to the table, and both sides have said only President Trump could do that.
Over in the U.S. Senate, Kash Patel will be sworn in as soon as tomorrow as FBI director. 7-term Kentucky U.S. Senator Mitch McConnell says he will not run for an 8th term. The longest-serving Senate leader in U.S. history made the announcement today on his 83rd birthday. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Right now in Murfreesboro, we have a stalled vehicle blocking the right lane, 24 westbound after Joe B. Jackson Parkway. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
In the teens, afternoon high, mid-40s. We'll be in the mid-50s by Sunday.
So the snow is melting, right? Where does that snow go? The snow obviously melts, goes into the ground. If you have waterproofing issues, some of that wet stuff could get inside of your home. Are you smelling musty or moldy or mildewy smells in your basement or your crawl space? Is that smell coming up into your home? Did you know that that could cause health concerns for you and your family? USS knows. USS can help assist you. USS can eliminate the waterproofing issues that you might have inside of your home and correct those issues. The wet, the water, it will not go away. It will find a way in your home if you allow it. Let's stop it with USS. USS stands for United Structural Systems. If you need peace of mind with regard to your foundation of your home or your waterproofing, they are the peace of mind experts at USS. They are the company that gives you that level of peace of mind. Give them a call and you'll call problem solvers with USS. They're not there to sell you anything. They're there to solve the issue that is standing before you. USS. USSTN.com. USSTN.com or call today at 615-488-7855, 488-7855 for USS. The Matt Murphy Show trying to get an audio component to my Ninkoops. I'm just upping my game here, boys. Upping my game.
You just know you're going to lose.
Well, that's probably true. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I always lose. I don't know if anybody's noticed or not, but
that's what I'm saying.
I think there's a bias against the host of the show during Ninkoops in the news. Coming up in just a couple of minutes, no benefits for illegals. An executive order backs up a 1996 law passed and into law by sitting Congress in good standing with these United States of America and the Congress and the Constitution, and signed by President William Jefferson Clinton. More on that. I got Heidi Campbell coming. You know, I could have used Heidi as a nincompoop in the news, but I didn't want to call names because I made a promise on the social media platform formerly known as Twitter that if Heidi would come on the show to talk to me about fascism, that I wouldn't call her any names. And I want to try to honor that. You know, I mean, I called her a liar and she got mad at me. Y'all might not know this because I was in the midday during the time. Senator Heidi Campbell would come on my show and she was lying. And so I said, stop lying. And she said, I'm not going to sit here and be called a liar. And I said, well, you can leave. And so she did.
She did.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to stop telling the truth because you get your feelings hurt about things. I mean, if you stop lying to people, I'll stop calling you a liar. Anyway, Heidi will not be my nincompoop today, but I do have a good one.
All right.
Yeah, y'all ready?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Let's do it. Let's go. I'll even go first.
All right.
How about that?
Wow.
I'll go first. It's time for Ninkoops in the News, an opportunity for Ken Weaver, Chris Weber, and yours truly, Matt Murphy, to present to you stories unbeknownst to the other two parties or to you prior to said presentation. We present them for the edification and amusement of the listening audience, and then you get to vote who the Ninkoopoop of the day is. That's how that works. Ninkoops in the News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My Ninkoopoop is Los Angeles Democrat Mayor Karen Bass.
Oh, boy.
Karen Bass recently sat down for a major interview regarding why she left for Ghana after the National Weather Service had already issued a critical fire alert, which later resulted in the most catastrophic fire the city of Los Angeles has ever seen. During the interview with Bass, she explained that she traveled to the African nation because, quote, I'm not making this up, no one told her not to. Noting the Biden administration had asked her to go in order to represent Joe Biden and his White House. Karen Bass went on to say that she was doing a full-fledged investigation to determine why she was allowed to go on the trip.
She's investigating.
We're going to win.
So you heard that correctly. Hold on, I got to get Donald Trump's talking about winning over here. Hey, Donald Trump out here. So here's Karen Bass talking a little about her full-throated and full-fledged investigation.
Which I know you've said was a mistake now. But I just am curious on the thought process behind it.
Right.
Because we know that there was warnings about the weather before you went, and you still went. What was the thought process behind going to Ghana?
So let me just tell you a couple of things. First of all, when the White House called and asked me if I would represent the president, I said yes. It was going to be a very
just real quick, is this the first that either of y'all are hearing about this? Because it's the first that I've heard about this.
Well, there for a moment, she sounded exactly like Vice President Kamala Harris. Because that is exactly what she would say when asked a question.
Well, first of all, let me just give you a little
background.
Yeah, let me just give you a little background.
We will find that although there were warnings that I frankly wasn't aware of, although there were warnings, I think our preparation wasn't what it typically is, meaning that before there's a major weather event, for example, last week when we knew we were going to get into the rains, you saw us come together and us talk about, get your sandbags, bring the K-rails out. That type of preparation didn't happen. If that had, I will tell you, Alex, I wouldn't have even gone to San Diego, let alone.
Okay, so she goes on for another, and I'm not going to bore the audience with it. She goes on for another 2.5 minutes in this answer, explaining that had the preparations been different, she wouldn't have gone. Had someone told her, she wouldn't have gone. Had the White House not called her, she wouldn't have gone. Had anybody else in her circle informed her that there would be fires of any sort, she wouldn't have gone. If her plane had been delayed, she wouldn't have been gone. If she had not the proper luggage, she wouldn't have gone. I mean, it's everybody's fault but her own.
I don't know that LA's got enough buses to cover all those bodies that she's throwing under it.
Well, I was getting ready to say, I think that the winds had been forecast like 2 weeks prior.
For weeks, man. Karen Bass essentially blamed everyone in Los Angeles but herself. But she did go on to say that she is going to fully investigate, and I quote, why she was allowed to go on the trip. Karen Bass is my nincompoop in the news.
It's pretty hard to top.
That's something right there.
Mr. Weber?
Well, I'm not sure who the nincompoop is actually in my story, but this was just too good. I had to share this. This was I found this on a Reddit thread, and it comes from the Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport. Apparently, in one of the restrooms there in the airport, a sign was spotted on a stall. It looks like a stall door. It looks like a stainless steel door of some kind. So I'm assuming it's on a stall door. And the sign reads as follows: security notice. And this is a very official-looking sign. Security notice. Electronic genital verification, parentheses, EGV. Then it says, your genitalia may be photographed electronically during your use of this facility as part of the Electronic Genital Verification Pilot Program at the direction of the Office of the Lieutenant Governor. In the future, EGV will help keep Texans safe while protecting your privacy by screening for potentially improper restroom access using machine vision and artificial intelligence in lieu of traditional genital inspections. At this time, images collected will be used solely for model training purposes and will not be used for law enforcement or shared with other entities, except as pursuant to a subpoena, court order, or as otherwise compelled by legal process. Your participation in this program is voluntary. You have the right to request removal of your data by calling the EGV program office at, and then it gives a phone number during normal operating hours. And then at the bottom, it's got a couple seals and the DFW airport logo. The phone number, by the way, is the actual office number to Texas's Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. So apparently I'm sure this has something to do with, the restroom debate.
Right.
Okay.
This is somebody that's mad.
They're trying to gum up the works and get people to call this, the Lieutenant Governor's office and just basically cause trouble.
I could go for some of that TGI.
TGI?
Isn't that what you said? No. TGI, traditional genital inspection?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, EGV, electronic genital verification.
No. That's that newfangled stuff. We go for the more traditional approaches on the Matt Murphy Show.
Genital inspections.
So, yeah, that's there's a lot of nincompoops to go around and all of that.
I just thought that was hilarious.
And they just need to have a monitor in the bathroom.
Yeah, just a little bathroom, just a little fella.
Drop them.
Yeah.
All right, you're good.
He'll stand over there by the table with the magazines on it.
Just, listen, here's my standard. If you're able to stand at that urinal and make it happen, good for you.
Yeah.
I don't really care how you're doing it, but if you manage to get it done that way, you're good. Good to go. Might want to wash those hands before you leave.
Yep.
Yeah.
All righty.
That needs to be mandatory.
The old TGI. TGI beats EGV any day of the WEEK. Mr. Weaver.
Yes, sir.
Your nincompoop, sir.
School employee arrested after sending nude photos to student. An employee of Frederick County Public Schools in Virginia arrested and charged on a felony warrant after allegations of sending nude photos to a 17-year-old student. Brian Patrick Sullivan's been the athletic director at James Wood High School since 2022. District officials just learned about it today. Accusation is that Sullivan sent a naked photo of himself to a student through social media. Nobody's going to find out about that. School officials notified the Frederick County Sheriff's Office School Safety Division, which launched a criminal investigation. The investigation found Sullivan had shared at least 2 self-produced nude photos with the student between November 2024 and January 2025 that were confirmed to have been taken off campus and shared after school hours. The problem for Sullivan is that, unfortunately, the investigation lasted until he was reportedly visiting family in Pennsylvania over the weekend, and that's where he was arrested. Wow. Nothing to explain there. Sullivan is charged with using a communication device to transmit sexually explicit photos to a minor, which is a felony. So there's my nincompoop. Yeah. I mean,
come on, man.
What goes through people's minds?
I don't.
When they think that they can do something like that and nobody will ever find out.
Don't get it. Do not understand it. I don't think anything's going through their mind, Ken.
Yeah.
I don't know. There you go.
Well,
There's
something
your,
is, but it ain't the right thing.
It's not the right thing. That's right. Yeah. There's your 3 nominees. That's Ninkoops in the news. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Give a vote. 615-737-9986. Matt Murphy, Chris Webber, Ken Weaver. There you are. It's 11 until the top of the hour. When we return, no benefits for illegal aliens. The executive order says it right there. Before the media was able to howl, they reminded the Trump administration that this thing was passed into law almost 30 years ago. We'll talk about it next on Super Talk. Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy. I want to talk to you about Stultz Co. and what they do for their customers. In Middle Tennessee, there's only one name that I would recommend when it comes to building on your property, and that name is Stultz Co. They build high-quality, customized structures at a reasonable price. Now, guys, look, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, I need an outbuilding, or I need a space where I can go and do my work. Maybe it's more of a garage-y type area where you're going to keep farm equipment. Maybe it's something where you keep your RV. Perhaps it's more of an equestrian space for you and the family, or it's just a man cave, if you will. Regardless of what it is, would you go to Stultz Co. and talk to them about it? Don't buy one of these prefab deals when you could buy from Stultz Co. These are quality, customized pole barns. These are post-frame buildings. These are barn dominiums or garages or equestrian spaces or event spaces. If you want a place to hang out on the weekends, they can do that. If you need a mother-in-law or a father-in-law suite, they can do that as well. If you want someplace to retire in the country, well, give Stultz Co. a call. Go online and see the incredible structures that they present at stultzco.com. That's STOLTZCO.com. StultzCo.com, or give them a call at 615-622-5992. 622-5992 for our friends at Stultz Co.
We'll tell you what Tennessee Valley Authority is asking you to do to keep the heat on in this bitter cold. And then that education legislation advancing at the General Assembly, what that's going to mean for you and your kids, coming up at 6 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Why, thank you much, Mr. Ken Weaver. Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced earlier today, as we've been telling you throughout the course of the day, that 8 Latin American criminal organizations are now considered foreign terrorist organizations, FTOs, and specially designated global terrorist, or SDGTs, under U.S. law. The decision, published by the federal, or published, I should say, in the Federal Register, and effective immediately, targets a range of groups from Venezuela, El Salvador, and Mexico, including Tren de Agua. I can never say it. I don't know why I can never say it. I can never say it.
Tren de Agua.
Oh, I say you said it.
Yeah, Tren de Agua.
Tren de Agua. I want to say agua. I don't think it's agua.
Yeah, Tren de Agua.
Aragua.
Yeah, Tren de Agua.
Well, see, he added a syllable.
Yeah, it's Tren de Agua.
There was not a syllable in there before you said the syllable, and then he said the syllable.
Oh.
I thought.
Oh, did I? Tren de Agua? Tren de Agua.
Sure. I think you're saying nasty things.
I'm saying nasty.
And by the way, that's the easiest one. I mean, try to pronounce MS-13. I mean, at least they have the decency to just call it MS-13. That's Mara Salvatrucha.
Yeah, I'm not helping you on that one.
And 6 other major Mexican cartels, whose names, none of which I can pronounce. The designation by Marco Rubio, a person whose name I can pronounce, follows an executive order signed by President Donald Trump in January, instructing the State Department to recommend such designations within 2 weeks. The move aimed to target not only the gang's financial networks, but also to curb the violence and criminal activity that directly affects U.S. communities. These are the types of activities that people like, circling back to the beginning of the show, that people like Jim Acosta claim aren't happening. Remember when Jim Acosta, at the beginning of the show, if you were here at the beginning, we played the clip where Acosta claimed that Donald Trump is a part-time president, getting nothing done. Imagine what he has gotten done in a 1-month time frame. He has shrunk illegal border crossings from their zenith at the time of Joe Biden's presidency in 2023 into 2024. There were as many as 11,000 gotaways at the southern border. And many of the individuals who were apprehended at the southern border immediately raised their hands and screamed asylum, and they were granted, sadly, asylum and allowed to enter the United States of America of their own volition. Thousands and thousands of them on a daily basis. That number has gone down, according to Stephen Miller earlier today at the White House press briefing. That number's gone down by 95%. 95% in a month. Remember the number of times? I mean, if you think about it enough, you'll get as mad as Mike was earlier in his telephone call. The number of times that the Secretary of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas, I won't do the whole thing. The number of times he told us he was doing all that he could possibly do, that everything in his power was being done to stop the border crossings.
Yeah, they needed Congress.
Mm-hmm. Well, in a month, without any assistance from Congress, Tom Homan and Kristi Noem, the new Secretary of Homeland Security, they've diminished border crossings from a zenith of 11,000 to less than 300. That is called effective governance. And now with this tool in their arsenal, they're going to be able to crack down on the criminal drug cartels that are allowing fentanyl to go across our southern border as well. Good for them. We got another hour to go. It's right at 6 o'clock. It's time for the news on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Six o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes, and here in Middle Tennessee, it is going to be cold. TVA's asking you to reduce use of electricity. Get through this bitter cold snap without any service interruptions. Sharon Young telling Channel 4 her family has lost power a few times over the past couple of weeks here in Nashville, including last night with low temperatures in the single digits.
With the temperatures dropping, the streets were iced over, so there was like not a good chance of getting out of the subdivision with no lighting to, find a place to go. So we had to just make do and just get extra blankets and just pray that the power will come on soon.
NES and TVA asking you to turn off decorative lights, lower the thermostat, and avoid using large appliances like ovens. They expect near record usage tomorrow morning. And over at the state capitol, legislation that bans cell phones in classrooms with an enforcement mechanism is advancing at the General Assembly. Tennessee House Education Subcommittee Chair Scott Sapicki responding to a question on WTN's Matt Murphy Show about a cell phone ban being a distraction for teachers who need to teach instead of police devices.
Well, you're going to be able to teach because you're going to have the mechanism of the district behind you now. You're not going to have to sit there and every day do this. The kids are going to get into a routine where they're going to know, they're just going to respond.
Sapicki says the bill could be on the full House floor in 2 weeks. A federal judge says President Trump can move forward with firing government workers. U.S. District Judge Christopher Cooper, an Obama appointee, says the employee union's request has to go before the Federal Labor Relations Authority, which adjudicates labor relations within the federal bureaucracy, rather than a federal district court. And Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum says the U.S. didn't consult Mexico on the new cartel terrorist designation today. She calls it an opportunity for the U.S. to invade Mexico's sovereignty. Matt Rivers has more from Mexico City.
6 of those 8 groups are cartels based here in Mexico. The 2 household names would be the Jalisco cartel and the Sinaloa cartel. And look, the Mexican government is not in favor of this designation. They say that this will only harm the joint abilities of both countries to attack these cartels.
It is a done deal. Kash Patel to be sworn in as the nation's new FBI director at some point tomorrow. And President Trump has given the U.S. hockey team a pep talk before tonight's 4 nations face-off final against Canada. This is center Jack Hughes.
It was good. Just said he was watching and excited to watch tonight.
Was it over the phone or how did he communicate with you?
Yeah, over the phone.
How did it make you feel?
Good. Definitely cool when the president's, talking to us as a group, so pretty cool.
How does it add to your motivation?
I don't know. I think we're motivated enough. I think we're in a good spot, but definitely we'd like to come through with this one tonight.
The puck drops at 7 o'clock Middle Tennessee time. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. I don't see any accidents on the interstate. In fact, I see very few slowdowns. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Here we go, here we go, here we go. Hour number 4 of the Matt Murphy Radio Show is underway right now. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Thank you for being around. It's 6:06. Pleased to be with you, whatever time you're able to give us. We're appreciative of that. We have 4 full hours, 240 minutes. There's Chris Weber behind the glass, making sure that everything that comes out of our speaker sounds as good as possible. Ken Weaver's back in News Closet B. My name is Matt Murphy, and I'm in the good old confines of the friendly studios right here at the butt end of Music Row, where I turned around because I wanted to make sure that we're pixelated. Have you noticed?
Yeah, a little bit.
Can you tell that on the screen, though?
Yeah, if you knew what you were looking for, you could probably tell it. But it kind of looks like it's sparkling, though.
Very odd.
Yeah.
It's like we've been glitter bombed in our background. Yeah, our background's been glitter bombed.
Cool.
Well, that's one way to put it, Ken, I suppose. I mean, I guess we could look at it as Ken's always got a great attitude about everything.
I wish I was glitter bombed back here.
Well,
I look like a ghost.
More glitter or bomb? You look great. I disagree with that.
I don't know. I look like real white.
Yeah, he does look like a ghost.
Here, let's do this. How about that?
There we go.
I look like a ghost in the dark.
I'm gonna let you know how that looks in about 30 seconds.
Why are you so far behind?
I don't know. I don't know. Isn't that just the stream? I think I'm on the stream. I'm on the Facebook.
Oh, I guess Facebook's just behind.
I guess it is.
Do you need me to do my ghost for you again?
Oh no, I'm looking at it now. Yeah, you do look kind of spooky there. The flags in the background, giving a little. Oh yeah, I like that, Ken. That looks good. You look like a man who spent all winter inside. That's what you look like.
He does. And the rest of his life.
I got to get some vitamin D. I mean, I'm telling you, man. You wouldn't know I have a lick of Cherokee in me.
Oh, you look good. We'll just once spring hits, we'll go fishing.
All right.
That'll get some sun on us. How about that?
That sounds good to me.
Is Janet Yellen gone for good this time? I truly hope we never hear or see that sea hag again. I suppose that Janet Yellen is gone for good this time. I mean, she's no longer Treasury Secretary, that's for certain. Donald Trump has most of his cabinet in place. As we've mentioned throughout the course of the afternoon, both in the newsroom and here in the studios, the only ones left of note, Secretary of Labor and Secretary of Education. Other than that, there are a few ancillary positions that have to be filled through cabinet level appointment. I mean, Senate confirmation. But other than that, all the big ones are done. Kash Patel was the last big name that possibly could have been stymied by Republicans not choosing to support him. Instead, it was a 51-49 vote. Did not need J.D. Vance's tie-breaking vote there. So Kash Patel will be the FBI director. Everyone else seems to be in place, and that's good news for the future of the United States of America, in my humble opinion. I want to talk to you. Well, let me give you this real quick. One of those individuals that has been put into place, Kevin Hassett, who has a brilliant response to a reporter's question in a press conference held earlier today in the White House. The White House press corps assembled to see Caroline Leavitt, along with Stephen Miller, who's an advisor to the president on immigration policy, and Kevin Hassett, who was standing before the podium answering questions about government downsizing. And the mainstream media seems to have the same question over and over again. Well, won't this hurt people? Well, won't this cause problems? Well, these people say that they shouldn't have been fired. Listen to this response. It is a brilliant response by a brilliant guy. This guy is going to be a rock star regarding financials, inflation, and other economic policy in the Trump White House.
So you're saying that everybody who's being let go was doing a bad job?
I'm saying that we're studying every agency and deciding who to let go and why. And we're doing so very rationally with a lot of support from analysis.
Because we're being told by a lot of people who have been let go at other agencies that they were told they were being dismissed because of poor performance, when in some cases they haven't even had a performance review yet because they've only been on the job a couple of months.
Yeah, I've never seen a person who was laid off for poor performance say that they were performing poorly. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to play that again. I think it's the most brilliant thing I've heard in a long time. Now, for those who don't know, Kevin Hassett is the director of the National Economic Council, appointed in that position by President Donald J. Trump. He is one of the guys that's going through the books with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that we're properly and appropriately spending the taxpayer dollars. He's one of the guys that's answering questions on these talking head shows. He's going on the CNNs of the world and other aggressively anti-Trump organizations to answer questions as best he can about economic policy, to basically explain math to dunderheads, which is what he's been doing. And so this reporter asks him about the people that have been laid off, saying, well, are you saying that everyone that's been laid off was doing a bad job? And so if you can't hear the reporter, she then follows up by asking, wait a minute, some of these people have not even had a chance to have a performance review. And I just want you to, it's 37 great seconds of audio. Listen to this final response.
So you're saying that everybody who's being let go was doing a bad job?
I'm saying that we're studying every agency and deciding who to let go and why. And we're doing so very rationally with a lot of support from analysis.
Because we're being told by a lot of people who have been let go at other agencies that they were told they were being dismissed because of poor performance, when in some cases they haven't even had a performance review yet because they've only been on the job a couple of months.
Yeah, I've never seen a person who was laid off for poor performance say that they were performing poorly.
I've never seen a person who was laid off for poor performance say that they were performing poorly. Amen, brother. Amen. In the meantime, a must-watch segment or must-listen segment from White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller, who gives an excellent civics lesson to the assembled media regarding how things work in the executive branch of government. We've heard him do this from time to time, but never so succinctly as he did today, sitting before the assembled press of the White House.
It is true that many of the people in this room for 4 years failed to cover the fact that Joe Biden was mentally incompetent and was not running the country. It is also true that many people in this room who have used this talking point that Elon is not elected fail to understand how government works. So I'm glad for the opportunity for a brief civics lesson. A president is elected by the whole American people. He's the only official in the entire government that is elected by the entire nation, right? Judges are appointed, members of Congress are elected at the district or state level, just one man. And the Constitution, Article 2, has a clause known as the vesting clause, and it says the executive power shall be vested in a president, singular. The whole will of democracy is imbued into the elected president. That president then appoints staff to then impose that democratic will onto the government. The threat to democracy, indeed the existential threat to democracy, is the unelected bureaucracy of lifetime tenured civil servants who believe they answer to no one, who believe they can do whatever they want without consequence, who believe they can set their own agenda no matter what Americans vote for. So Americans vote for radical FBI reform, and FBI agents say they don't want to change. Or Americans vote for radical reform on our energy policies, but EPA bureaucrats say they don't want to change. Or Americans vote to end DEI, racist DEI policies, and lawyers at the Department of Justice say they don't want to change. What President Trump is doing is he is removing federal bureaucrats who are defying democracy by failing to implement his lawful orders, which are the will of the whole American people.
Anybody confused about that? Anybody at all? Back of the room? Aniana? Anyone confused? It is not that difficult to understand. The bureaucrats do not make the rules. Stephen Miller said it better in a minute and 40 seconds than Matt Murphy has said over the last 3 months. And kudos to him for saying it. The American people voted for radical FBI reform and change. Of course the FBI doesn't want to reform or to change. They like what they're doing, many of them. Maybe some of them do. It's a big organization. When you are elected as a president of the United States to do certain things that are going to shake up certain agencies, certainly those bureaucratic organizations or agencies aren't going to want to shake themselves up. They're not going to like it. If you fire people, the people that are fired aren't going to like it. When you downsize government, the people that are downsized are going to go to every media outlet that are willing to take their interview, and they're going to howl and scream about how people are going to die. When organizations like Vanderbilt Medical Center are utilizing millions and millions and millions of federal dollars that they consider to be free money to do all of the research projects that they want to do, when they get some of that money cut, of course they're going to talk about some of the more important research projects that perhaps they're working on and not talk about those projects that are unnecessary, needless, or redundant. And you know those exist. We've talked about them ad nauseum. Did we not think, and I've been saying this for months, did we not think the deep state was going to howl and fight back? Of course they're going to howl and fight back. I don't know that Donald Trump came nearly as close to being over the mark in his first term as he has this term already in just a month. In just 1 month, he's gotten closer to the point than I think he ever did in his first 4 years as president of the United States. And much of that had to do with the manner in which he had to tackle his task. A lot of that was learning on the job. A lot of that was dealing with the broken system that he inherited in 2017. And sadly, Joe Biden did a lot of breaking on his own, but he could not break nearly as much as Barack Obama managed to do over the 8 years of his presidency. This is what we're dealing with. What do these media organizations think the American people voted for? And I understand a lot of people didn't vote for Donald Trump. But guess what, kids? That's how democracy works. Don't y'all like to chant? This is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. This is the way that it goes. The rule of law. And that's what we're dealing with, the rule of law. We're not dealing with a lawless administration. We're dealing with people operating under the system of laws. And yes, those that are fighting back are attempting to gum up the works in the legal system, gum up the works in the judicial branch of government. They're trying to utilize friendly judges to accomplish their goals, but most of them recognize that at some point they're going to get to a level in the judicial system where they will be rebuked because they are not answerable to nobody. As a matter of fact, in the executive branch, they're answerable to somebody, the president of the United States of America. It's something that the media spent, the better part of a day laboring over. When they were, well, wait a minute, you said Elon Musk is not the head of DOGE? No, the president's the head of DOGE. Well, wait a minute, but isn't Elon the authority? No, the president's the authority. He empowers Elon Musk to do these things. Well, wait a minute, but Elon Musk said this and Elon Musk said that. Yeah, he's working under the authority of the president of the United States. And you go over it over and over and over again, and they just sit there with these blank stares on their faces as if they don't get it. What? They have come to believe that the bureaucracy acts somehow immune to the voter, to the people. This is a government of the people, by the people, for the people. Y'all don't get to decide that. Y'all don't get to quote that famous Lincoln expression merely when you want to or when you win. You rebuked those that fought back, in some cases violently, rightly so, on January 6th. Oh, you overplayed your hand horribly, and you politically persecuted so many people horribly. But you rightly noted that you don't get to show your frustration by breaking into things like the Capitol and busting people up or whatever. But now it seems to me that that is your answer when you have elected officials calling for literal violence on the streets in Washington, D.C., and they most certainly are calling for that.
It is true that many of the people in this room for 4 years failed to cover the fact that Joe Biden was mentally incompetent.
He's right. And now Daddy's back home, and he's mad. 21 after the hour. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy. And, you know, Dr. Stephen Poss and Dr. Brian McLaughlin run the Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solutions Center. And I've mentioned them quite often when it comes to your sleep and your rest. If you're not getting a restful night's sleep, if you fear it's because of sleep apnea, why not do something about it? Get a sleep test and see what's going on. And then contact Dr. Stephen Poss. Contact Dr. Brian McLaughlin. 2 locations, one's in Brentwood, the other in Murfreesboro. What did they do? They have an FDA-approved oral device that I have in my home. I did not realize that I had sleep apnea. I had a sleep test, and lo and behold, I have mild to moderate sleep apnea. I went to Dr. Poss and said, what do I do? He created a 3D image of my mouth, and with that 3D image, he created a device that I put in my mouth every night when I go to bed. It's just much like a mouth guard in football or maybe a retainer, but it holds your jaw gently forward. You don't notice it after a night or two. And here's the deal, folks. You breathe better, you sleep better, you have more energy level. And I'm telling you, this thing works. It is FDA approved, as I mentioned, and it's in network for most insurance companies. Go ahead and go to drposs.com. That's drposs.com to find out more about this revolutionary device that can help you sleep and with more energy. It's Dr. Poss, drposs.com.
Pothole repair is ramping up. Will drivers' patience hold up? And a horrifying revelation coming out of today's handover of those bodies of hostages from Hamas to Israel. These stories and the day's closing money news at 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Yes, Mr. Ken Weaver over there in the newsroom. He's got one more batch of headlines for you. They should be a good one. We'll wind our way to 7 o'clock. You know, Mark Levin, I'll tell you, the great one, had a wonderful monologue last evening. I was listening to it on the way home, a wonderful monologue last evening on the issue involving Ukraine, the Russians. There are a lot of bad actors. And unfortunately, I think some, and my goal when it comes to Ukraine and Russia is certainly not to defend Russia. It is sure as hell not to defend Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin is a dictator. I mean, you want to talk about fascism, and we will in a moment with Heidi Campbell's comments. I mean, that's the definition of fascism, is it not? I mean, fascism is a movement that is identified as authoritarian in nature, totalitarian in nature, that uses its military to accomplish its goals, squash dissent, prevent freedom of movement, prevent freedom of speech. I mean, you could define it a number of different ways, but Donald Trump is not fascist. No matter what people like Senator Heidi Campbell would want you to know. I could easily say, I mean, you know, you could call it communism, you can call it fascism, and there's a fine distinction in terms of the two different styles of governance. Both of them are bad. That said, Vladimir Putin is not a good actor. And what he has done in Ukraine cannot go without some sort of reprisal or response. But my goal all along has been to prevent the United States of America from getting into yet another war. I don't believe that the American people want that. I do not believe the American people desire boots on the ground and American blood to be spilled in a conflict that doesn't really seem to have that much to do with us. You know, I understand the basic concept of America spreading freedom around the globe and promoting the concepts of freedom and standing up when bullies try to bully the little guy, which is clearly what has happened in this situation. Vladimir Putin, I don't mean to oversimplify things, but Vladimir Putin obviously believes that Ukraine still belongs to Mother Russia and the former Soviet Union. And he's trying to, you know, the old phrase, get the band back together. But I say all that to say Mark Levin had a great treatment, and obviously Mark Levin is no fan of Russia, no fan of the Soviet Union, and no fan of Vladimir Putin. None of us should be. And if you find yourself making an argument, and I'm not telling others to how to do their job, but, you know, if you're listening to somebody and you find them making an argument that sounds like they are friends of Russia, then maybe they're not expressing themselves in the best possible way. There's only one aggressor here. And frankly, I think Donald Trump has been guilty of some of that. I mean, he misspoke the other day, and the media picked up on it when he said that Volodymyr Zelensky started it. And I don't believe that he meant that. I don't believe Donald Trump fully knows how all of this got started in the latest of this escalating conflict that has been going on a lot longer than the last 3 years, folks. A lot longer than the last 3 years. This started way before February of 2022. Vladimir Putin took advantage of Joe Biden's inability to do anything about what he did in February of 2022 and thought that he would take over Ukraine lickety-split like that and was unable to do so. But all of this started way back. But that doesn't mean Putin's not a good guy. He's a murderous, evil dictator that is willing to kill anyone or destroy anything in his way to accomplish his goals. But I do not believe that it is in America's interest to further invest ourselves in a conflict that's eventually going to lead us to war. Ken Weaver's got the news on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Pothole repair ramping up across Middle Tennessee. This TDOT spokesperson tells Channel 4 they hope drivers' patience holds up.
We're going to see a lot of potholes because it's just that is the recipe for potholes. The wet weather, then freezing weather, and then a thaw. That is how potholes are made. So we just ask, please be patient. We're going to be patching a lot.
Officials ask that you report potholes online or over the phone. TDOT if it's a state road, NDOT if it's a Nashville road. An update to the Hamas handover of hostages' bodies to Israel today. Israel says one of the bodies does not match with their mother's body. Israel accusing Hamas of handing over a body of an unidentified person instead. Money News, Michelle Franzen.
Stocks couldn't bounce back from Walmart's lackluster forecast Thursday. The Dow tumbling 450 points. The S&P, which came off 2 record-setting days, also fell 26 points. And the tech-heavy NASDAQ also reporting a loss of 93 points. The Walmart numbers also show Amazon overtaking the longtime retail giant for the first time in quarterly revenue, reporting $187 billion in sales over the last quarter. Walmart still expects to lead the way in its annual sales, projecting to reel in $708 billion. The state of Florida has filed a class action lawsuit against Target, claiming the company knowingly misled investors by concealing the financial risks of its radical LGBTQ activism with its 2023 Pride campaign. Florida's Attorney General claims that the Minneapolis-based retailer knew the controversy could cause stock prices to fall and put the retirement accounts of Florida's teachers and first responders at risk.
That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Got a crash popping up here on 24 westbound at 440. Also Wedgwood Avenue at 18th Avenue South. That involves injury, according to police in Hillsborough. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
If I told you you could have affordable, convenient, and comprehensive medicine delivered at your fingertips next day or same day for your primary care provider, you'd probably want to listen up, right? Because it doesn't happen very often anymore. Sadly, it is the case in modern medicine that you call your doctor when you got the sniffles when you're sick, and your doc often tells you, hey, it'll be a week. Or you don't talk to the doctor, by the way. You talk to some sort of receptionist or even worse, some sort of call center. And they tell you, oh, no, it's a week out or it's 2 weeks out or it's even worse, a month out. I mean, you can't live that way. You can't get better that way. At Grace Point Healthcare, they are affordable and convenient and comprehensive healthcare. They are a direct pay system, meaning that the insurance company never gets in your way of your decision-making with you and your doctor. Dr. Rob is great at what he does. The rest of the medical staff at Grace Point Healthcare make it as convenient as possible. They'll see the entire family. And, oh, by the way, whether you're paying by the visit or enrolling in the Smart Care plan, oftentimes you get to be seen the same day or the next day, even on your initial visit. They believe in that. They don't believe you should wait for good health care. Grace Point Healthcare, they're a veteran-owned, military-owned practice. Patients are treated naturally whenever possible. I love that about Grace Point, and they can see you. Give them a call in Franklin at 599-6868. Schedule your next medical appointment. Modern medicine delivered the old-fashioned way. It's Grace Point Healthcare. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is the Matt Murphy Show. Thank you for being around with us on this Thursday edition. Cruising through a Thursday evening. Cold outside. Cold, and getting colder this evening. And cold throughout the rest of the week, really. A little bit of a warm-up tomorrow and into the weekend. 615-737-9986. If you'd like to be a part of the show, you still have time. 20 good minutes left in the program today. 615-737-9986. Let's talk about fascism, shall we? That's always good dinner time conversation. So our good friend, Senator Heidi Campbell. If you don't know Heidi, I've had her on the show on numerous occasions. Last time she was on, she was talking about a bill that she claimed to have read that I happen to know that she had not read because the bill had not been filed yet. I said, stop lying. You haven't read the bill. She says, I have read the bill. I said, you haven't read the bill. You're lying. She said, I will not sit here and be called a liar. I said, okay, you can leave. And she left. No big deal. I'm not going to stop telling people the truth because it makes you uncomfortable. So Heidi posts on the X machine quite often, and I love to have fun with Heidi when she's on the X machine. And she posted or reposted something from a guy by the name of Dave Keating. I have no idea who Dave Keating is, except that Dave Keating posted something that came from the Trump White House in a U.S. State Department memo. And this is what it said. Dave Keating writes, the U.S. State Department is forcing its employees to cancel subscriptions to any Trump-unfriendly media. That's his words. But here's what the actual memo stated. Department-wide review of media subscriptions. Attention all tri-mission employees. The department, by that they mean the State Department, is conducting a broad review of spending to ensure resources align with the Secretary's highest priorities. As part of this effort, all non-mission critical media subscriptions that are not academic or professional journals must be immediately paused. This includes, but is not limited to, hard copy and electronic subscriptions for news, publications, and periodicals. Specifically, media subscriptions for these 6 companies will be terminated immediately. Number 1, The Economist. Number 2, The New York Times. Number 3, Politico. Number 4, Bloomberg Newsfeed. Number 5, Associated Press. Number 6, Reuters. GSO and contracting and acquisition staff will soon reach out to affected offices once you receive that communication. And then it goes on to say a few other things regarding what to do about receipt of that communication. Senator Heidi Campbell, who has been elected in the city of Nashville, said about this memo, and I'm not making this up, this is absolutely, or there is absolutely fascism. Full stop. Now, I happen to love it when a liberal likes to use the term full stop, because that means that there is no more discussion. That means that Heidi Campbell has said something, and she's going to put her foot down and say it twice, and then she's done with it. I've said my piece, and I've said it twice, and the end of the discussion is now. Full stop. Heidi has decided that this is fascism. And what is this exactly? Well, I just read you the memo. How did you read the memo? Well, since Heidi is afraid of me, I wish that you guys would ask her how exactly this is fascism. I'm not challenging you, Heidi. I'm just curious about your definition of fascism. This is literally the State Department announcing that it is no longer willing to pay with taxpayer dollars for subscriptions for people within the State Department to read the New York Times or The Economist. Or what are some of the other ones that they killed? Politico. Or Bloomberg, or the Associated Press, or Reuters, or any of these other ridiculous leftists. It doesn't even matter if it's a leftist publication. The government of the United States of America should not be using taxpayer dollars so that Joe Schmo in the State Department doesn't have to spend the $11 a month or whatever the hell it is to subscribe to Politico. You understand that leftists are now calling this fascism. The idea that government employee, and you wonder why I say that government employees are entitled. The State Department has reportedly ordered its outposts around the world to cancel subscriptions to news and media outlets that are non-mission critical. According to the Washington Post, they cited the February 11th directive to foreign posts, saying posts are asked to immediately stop work orders on all non-mission critical purchase orders for media subscriptions. And because of that, Heidi Campbell, who was elected by people in Nashville, Tennessee to represent them, is calling that fascism. Now, I don't know about you, but for me, words mean things. And definitions matter. What is fascism? I find it insulting to people. I mean, there are still people alive that have lived through, there are still fascist regimes that exist in the world. This nonsense has gone on far enough. How is Donald Trump a fascist? Tell me. I'll wait. Now, I'll offer you the most basic and reasonable definition of fascism that I can, just for those of you in Aniana that need to know it. I'm quoting straight from Wikipedia. Is it fair to quote from Wikipedia? I'm quoting from the Wikipedia article discussing fascism. All right, so I feel like this is fair. It's crowdsourced information. Fascism is a far-right, authoritarian, and ultra-nationalist political ideology and movement characterized by a dictatorial leader, centralized autocracy, militarism, forcible suppression of opposition, belief in a natural social hierarchy, subordination of individual interest for the perceived good of the nation or race, and a small regimentation of society and the economy. Can someone tell me how Donald Trump fits that definition of fascism? Anybody? Anybody at all? First and foremost, Donald Trump was just elected as president of the United States. Secondarily, he served as president of the United States during his first term, and when he was when he lost his election for office, and obviously there are many ways that we can dissect that loss, but it was a loss. Joe Biden served for 4 years. There's no question about that. What did Donald Trump do? Did he stay in office like a dictator would? Did he demand that the military back him up in keeping him in office and forcibly disallowing Joe Biden to ascend to the presidency? Or did he acquiesce and leave? He acquiesced and left. Of course he did. Does Donald Trump forcibly suppress his opposition? No. He allows these dunderheads on CNN to exist, much to my chagrin. And the rest of the 90% of the mainstream media is anti-Trump, yet here they are. And you know what people like to say, like Heidi Campbell? These morons like to say, well, Matt, you know that if he could, he would. No, I don't know that. You don't know that either. That's like saying that Heidi Campbell is a kleptomaniac. Senator Heidi Campbell is an absolute kleptomaniac. She steals every chance she gets. Now, she doesn't get many chances because she's very afraid of getting caught. And I don't know that she's ever actually stolen anything, but if she could, she would. Man, oh man, if Heidi could steal cars and jewelry, she'd be stealing things right and left. This woman, she's got sticky fingers. Now, she doesn't steal anything because she's afraid of getting caught. But if she could, she would. And you guys know I'm telling you the truth. Does that make any sense? Yeah, Matt, but she doesn't steal anything. But she's still a klepto. Hello, David. How are you?
I'm okay.
I'm glad to hear it, David. What's up in your world?
My question is, if you were...
Uh-oh. Well, David. David. We didn't get the question out, David. Typically, it's good policy and good practice that when you call the show, you got to turn the radio down. I don't know if that was David's problem or not. David, I'm not accusing you of anything. I hope that you're okay. I hope everything's going well in your automobile. I think you were in your automobile. But typical good policy is to use that hands-free device. I understand that you've got to do that in your car. After all, it's the state of Tennessee. I wouldn't want you violating the law. And just always turn that radio down when you do so. Scott writes in and says, fascism and Nazi references are all the rage these days. The best one I've seen is the comparison to the Tiananmen Square protest. So is he a communist or a Nazi? They can't even get that right. Yeah, there's the meme where all of the tanks have been replaced by Tesla Cybertrucks. Right, so they don't know what these terms mean. Just like they've lost the narrative when it comes to racism too. They feel like they can end a discussion by calling someone a racist or a Nazi or a fascist, and I don't know that they understand what these things mean at all. But they use the terms because it prevents them from having to defend their position on so many different issues. I would love the opportunity. I have them on with regularity. Any Democrat that wants to come on this radio show gets to come on this radio show because I believe that by presenting their views, they expose themselves for what they are. And oh, by the way, I would note this too. I don't believe this to be the case for Heidi. I think Heidi's more of a useful idiot than anything. I mean, and I'm not calling her an idiot. I'm just using the term. You guys know what I mean. There's people that know what's going on, and then there's the useful people that are used by the people that know what's going on. I don't think Heidi really knows what's going on. But typically the people that want the authoritarian regimes are the one that scream and point fascism to the other guys. It's called projection. It's 10 till the top of the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I absolutely love and believe in efficient heating and cooling. They're growing by leaps and bounds right now. Obviously, they're busy repairing your heater without having to replace it. They do that. They try to do that. There will come a time when you need to replace that unit. When the time comes, they're an Elite Pro partner with Rheem. But Jeff Eddy and his team, they try to get maximum life out of that heating unit. And right now, if it goes out, it's the last thing you need. You need to make the call to Efficient at 615-784-4424, 784-4424. But I remind you that not only is Efficient the best in the business when it comes to fixing your heater and or air conditioner, they are also a great employer. And they're looking for people. If you or someone you know is an HVAC technician or installer and you're interested in the next opportunity, Efficient is hiring with no upcharge on the weekends. I'm telling you, folks, this is a great company. They are a great pro partner with the Rheem, and it's always $125 maximum maintenance on your residential property, and now they are hiring in their community. So give them a call at 615-784-4424 for Efficient. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Speaking of entitled people, and I think Heidi Campbell is relatively entitled. I mean, after all, this is a person that never attended public school. Her children have never attended public school, yet she wanted to deny parents the ability to be able to escape the financial burdens that would keep their children into failing public schools and prevent them the ability to make certain choices that Heidi has decided to make in her private life. I don't begrudge her those choices. I would note that she talks a lot about public education. She's never attended public education, and her children have never attended public education. That said, Lisa Murkowski earlier today inadvertently demonstrated to us what I mean when I say government employees are generally entitled, generally speaking entitled. Here's Lisa Murkowski.
If you're going to have a reduction in forces and let people go because you have too many employees, you have redundancy, there's bloat in it, we get it, whatever. But you do not disrespect those who have worked hard, who have done good and honorable public service by suggesting that somehow or other, after 18 years of good performance, now it's shoddy performance, and you're going to have that black mark on your record.
Okay, so it's all about respect and disrespect for Lisa Murkowski. So has this woman worked in the private sector? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But let me promise you this, lady. When you get your walk-in papers in the private sector, you feel that level of disrespect. And then finally, there's perhaps the dumbest person in Congress. And I don't say that lightly. There are a lot of dumb people in Congress. Jasmine Crockett.
Now, President Trump says he likes the idea of giving some of the savings from DOGE back to Americans as kind of a dividend. Would you support that?
Listen, he's just telling a lie. He's not the one that had anything to do with the $1,200 refunds that people had during the midst of COVID that was done by a Democratic House and Democratic Senate. Right now, what they're going to do is say, hey, we want to give you a refund, but Congress won't let us because they already know that there's just no money for that. The only reason that those refunds came before was because we were living in different times. This was a time in which hopefully we won't ever go through again. We had a once in a lifetime pandemic. The bad part is that I don't know if it's once in a lifetime because we know that Ebola, unfortunately, was detected right here in New York here recently. And if we continue down this road of getting rid of scientists or deciding that we don't want to rely on experts as it relates to what they're telling us to do, or we don't want to deal with vaccines and medicine in this country, then we may be facing not only our next pandemic, but our next 2, 3, or 4 pandemics because of their incompetence. So no, we are not in the business of giving out money. And honestly, I don't know what $5,000 will do for you.
So she starts by taking credit for the $1,200 during COVID. Like, well, Democrats did that. Trump didn't do that. And that was a good thing. And she ends by saying, I don't know what $5,000 would do for you. No big deal. And in the middle of the word salad, she goes on to say the only reason that you got $1,200 was because of a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic that's never going to happen again. And, oh, by the way, thanks to Donald Trump, we're going to have 3 or 4 more of them in the next 3 years.
So we'll get the money if we get Ebola. Is that what she's trying to say? That's what it sounds like.
That's what it sounded like to me.
Yeah.
A little Ebola, you get your $5,000. And, oh, by the way, the Trans Elmo Sesame Street Guatemalan programming, that money's still good. Still good to go. But your $5,000 not good to go. The dumbest woman in Congress. Dumber than AOC, dumber than Maxine Waters, dumber than Elizabeth Warren. Jasmine Crockett. There you go. All right, that's going to wrap it up for us. Mark Levin's coming up next. I've enjoyed it. For Chris Weber, for Ken Weaver, and the rest of the gang, thank you for being around tonight. We certainly appreciate you. We'll be back tomorrow at 3 p.m. Dan Mandis is up with Nashville's Morning News bright and early at 5 a.m. Until tomorrow, have a great evening. So long, everybody.